Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and it is the 6th of May, 2026. It is time for another episode of this podcast where we talk about professional wrestling for a couple of hours right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast application, wherever it is you join in to listen. I'm here, baby. How are you? So, listen, we've got ourselves. I'm gonna try and get through the intro very quickly because we do have a big show. We have a lot of stuff stuffed in today. A lot of stuff stuffed in, if you can imagine that. But 2 reviews for 2 big shows from STARDOM and New Japan back to back, available right here. Plus, a big all of my thoughts on the most recent releases from WWE, which include the New Day. Had a lot of thoughts about that. And this week, all of this content that you're getting this week has all been pre-recorded. So these are not like your typical live stream highlights and peppered in with a few pre-recorded stuff just for the podcast. No. This is all pre-recorded. Nothing showed up on stream. So this is all like new to you, unless you are a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on YouTube. If you're a member of the channel, if you hit join and become a member, then you got all of this in early access. You were able to indulge and find out everything that I think about and I feel about before everyone else did. So there you go. That might be an incentive for next time. You never know when Warren Hayes is going to start recording things and early accessing things. You just never know. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much for being here. Might as well get to it. Let's talk about the newest batch of WWE departures / releases. The ones that were announced on May 2nd. On the Saturday. I'm actually recording this on May 2nd on Saturday afternoon after a little bit of the dust has settled, and we've got a bit of we've got some reports in and whatnot just to clarify what's going on. But yeah, on the 2nd of May, WWE announced that they were releasing JC Mateo, formerly known as Jeff Cobb, Tonga Loa, who was formerly known as Tonga Loa, so those 2 are gone. And more significantly, more shockingly, I guess it'd say, the New Day, who are also part of the squad of releases today, which I think has taken everyone by surprise. I think like everyone online, on any social media platform you're on, I think everyone was legitimately shocked. Because these guys, if there were ever people who you thought were going to be like absolute lifers in WWE, it would be these 2 guys. It would absolutely be these 2 dudes. It is an absolute it's an absolute shocking turn of events, and we're going to talk about it here. I actually pulled up an article from the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer, and we're going to read through it. On Saturday, fans online noticed that Kingston and Woods had been, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, of course, had been moved to the alumni section of WWE's website. Both are no longer listed under the Raw, SmackDown, or NXT sections of the company's roster page. Our own Brian Alvarez has since confirmed that Kingston and Woods decided to leave the company after being asked to restructure their deals. Alvarez wrote to his subscribers, quote, "We can also confirm that in the case of the New Day, it was their decision to leave based on what TKO was offering for a new deal. To be specific, New Day's deals were not up. They were asked to restructure to TKO deals. They didn't like the deals, so they were then granted their release." Alvarez also confirmed that both Kingston and Woods are under 90-day non-compete deals. Just an absolutely wild turn of events that you come up to two guys here, right? I mean, this is the TKO playbook here. Come up to these 2 guys here who have been paid for years, a certain amount, whatever, and then they're like, "Yeah, we need to restructure your deals. Your deals are not up, but we're going to come into your contracts now, and we want to restructure the deals, and here's the offer that we're doing." And clearly, whatever they offered was inferior to what they were getting. And they're like, no, we're not accepting this. And there's probably a counter offer. There was probably a little back and forth, one would assume. And one would assume that TKO didn't budge because they're gone, because they're not there anymore. This team, these two guys, along with Big E, which were for the longest time a part of the fabric of WWE. And I don't think many people will disagree with that. That these two guys were featured acts week after week, popular with the audience, coming out with, ever since they did their babyface turn. You know, they'd come out with all of their gimmicks, you know, with the dancing and the trombone and the bootios and the unicorns and the pancakes. Everything they did got over and had just like this level of silly and over the top that connected because they were three extremely charismatic guys who could make it work, who all had really good sense of humors, a taste of the absurd, and they all got along great with each other. That's why this group, this stable of three dudes worked so well once they decided to go down that aisle. And now TKO's like, whatever happened in the past doesn't matter. Now we're going to restructure you to the TKO deals, which are clearly inferior to whatever they were getting in WWE. And Kofi and Woodsy were like, nah, this doesn't work for us, brother. It's crazy to me. Like it's really crazy that TKO is legitimately. It's crazy, but it's unsurprising that they're clearly focused on, you know, the now. Who can make money for us now? How are things going now? As opposed to looking back at the years of service and the years upon years of when you as a talent were useful and part of the company and were a contributing factor to levels of success, whether they be ratings, pay-per-view buys, merchandise, fan investment. Yeah, it's crazy that they don't consider that is just like something we can easily wash away because now you're not being used on TV or whatever reasons, right? And we got to restructure your deal. It's baffling. Like, it's baffling from that perspective because, like I said, these are guys who were part of the fabric of WWE for years, not just like for a 6-month window or whatever. These guys were an integral part of the fabric. And sometimes things worked really well. Sometimes some things didn't work as much. You know, of course, it ebbs and flows. That's fine. But what you ended up having was an act here throughout the years that just ended up being popular, got itself over with the crowd, made every step correctly so that they could thrive in WWE. So that they could offer something that was so completely different and off the wall that it made it work so much. And the principal reason why it worked, like the secret to the sauce here, was because these guys, and I genuinely believe this, these guys were always very upfront about how close they were in real life. They were very, very authentic and true about their friendship, how they did everything together, how they always watched each other's backs, how they negotiated together. Like everything was about these three dudes watching out for each other, being legit friends. And you could feel that came across, and they never hid that. And it was put forward on TV. And I think that is one of the reasons that helped the New Day get over back in the day, because people were glad to see that in a business of liars and phonies, that these guys were authentic, that that friendship was indeed possible in professional wrestling, like true legitimate friendship. I think that is the ingredient that made the New Day work the way it did. That made people like myself say, never split up the New Day. It doesn't make any sense. because there's always discourse about, oh, the New Day, you should split them up. They're boring now. And no, don't. Don't split up the New Day. Don't break up the New Day. They're excellent. In fact, it's like don't do it. So maybe it's time for the heel turn. I was always apprehensive of those things. I'm very much a guy. I'm very much a guy that when you start hitting a high level of success, I don't know why you would change what you were doing that got you to that level of success. It's different from, let's say we need to refresh a little bit. Let's tweak this. Let's do a heel turn, a babyface turn. That's sometimes like to just re-inject some energy into something. But when you're successful, when things are going well, why would you change the formula that brought you to the dance, right? It's like Darby Allin recently is a very good example when he won the world championship, and then people are like, well, he's got to start acting like a world champion. And I'm like, well, first of all, what does that even mean? Second of all, no, don't change what brought Darby Allin to this spot. They did the same thing with Big E. Back in the day, when he won the world championship, the world title, or the WWE title, I don't know which one, whatever it was, the universal title or I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. When he won his world championship, that was the thing. It's like, oh, Big E, now he has to be serious now. He can't go around, gyrating and being a goofball. He has to act like a champion. I'm like, what the fuck? No, don't do that, because now you're changing what brought him to the dance. That brought him to this point. Why would you do that? It didn't make sense. So that's the thing with the New Day, is that people, for a long time, they were looking to split them up. They were looking for a change. The splitting them up came, unfortunately, at the expense of Big E's wrestling career, which is tragic, which is a legitimate shame, despite the fact that these guys were ambassadors. And look, even I might be jumping ahead. When I'm talking about being a part of the fabric, being a part of what people thought was great about WWE for a long stretch of time, you only need to think back to Kofi Mania at the same time, right? Kofi Mania, which was a completely organic thing that was happening that WWE surprisingly didn't push back against, actually decided to ride the wave into, what was it? It was 2019? It was WrestleMania, 30? That would have been 34 or 35, something like that. I don't know. Screw my math. I couldn't tell you. But, something to that effect. And it all started. Don't forget how it all started, right? Kofi Kingston wins the Elimination Chamber, or is a part of the Elimination Chamber. I don't quite remember the details, but I do remember that he was not supposed to be in the Elimination Chamber. He came in to sub for Mustafa Ali, who had got himself injured. Ali was supposed to be in the Elimination Chamber, but he got himself injured, couldn't compete, and Kofi was the guy who replaced him, and that's where it all started. That's where the movement to get Kofi Kingston a world title shot at WrestleMania started, and it was a wave. It was a huge wave of popularity that the WWE fans everywhere got behind. Like, I remember I was watching it at the time, and even I was kind of swept away with it. I was like, okay, like, if anything, this is a cool moment that's happening and is absolutely challenging whatever plans WWE Vince specifically had. But Vince was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And it goes to WrestleMania 34, where Kofi beats Daniel Bryan, and wins the title. And it creates not only a great match, but a legitimately, like a sincerely great moment in pro wrestling, with the celebration and the fans, like everyone, there was so much support, and it was such a good thing. Now, what they did after, that's a whole other thing. What they did after, that's not necessarily Kofi's fault. We can have another discussion on the aftermath, but we're not doing that here right now. The point that I'm trying to make, that is essential, that I'm making here, is that these guys are part of the fabric of WWE, and to the point that finally they decide to have them do the heel turn, because Big E is going to be out indefinitely, and they clearly don't know what to do with them. They clearly don't want to just go back and do, the unicorns and the video games and and the pancakes and whatnot. So they're like, what do we do next? let's do the heel turn. And this happened, if memory serves me right, like towards the end of 2024, right? Was that maybe even like in December 2024, something like that, where they cut the promo, right? They cut the promo to Big E and they run Big E down and they say, you're holding us back, whatever. And it was a legitimately very, very good promo. And it generated a lot of interest. And people were like, holy shit, this is excellent. And it was very, very good. I wasn't watching, but I watched the promo afterwards. I'm like, oh, okay. This is actually really good. And then everyone was calling it the greatest heel turn of all time. And it was like, oh, this is going to usher in such great things and whatnot. And look at what happened. Look at what happened to these two dudes. Nothing. Jack shit. Nothing happened. Oh, sure. Look, they have the tag team titles. Oh boy. The tag team titles that they've had for years upon years upon years, multiple times already. But creatively, there was nothing there. It was a void. They could not capitalize on it. They had, if you remember this, they had Xavier Woods then and Kofi come out, and Xavier would jump on the microphone and start cutting promos to the audience, right? And they wanted to recreate the heat that they were getting from the audience on that initial heel turn promo. They wanted to recreate that everywhere. So what they did was they would plan moments in the promo where Xavier Woods would stop talking, allegedly because the crowd noise was too long. You know what I'm talking about, right? When a heel is cutting a promo and then he stops because the audience is booing too hard, and he, like it happens often with Don Callis, for instance. Well, they were doing that with Woods, but they were planning these spots as opposed to letting the crowd do it organically. So Xavier would stop talking, and then WWE production would turn on the booze. They crank up the heat machine to 10 to give the impression that Woodsy was being overwhelmed by booze. Whereas if you looked into the audience, everyone was sort of sitting around. Wasn't that many boos. Wasn't that loud. Didn't look like that level of heat. So then it became manufactured. Then it became corporate and insincere and devoid of life. Bereft of life. There was nothing. It became a joke. It became a joke amongst a lot of people. It was just like, okay, well, this is clearly useless. They were trying to manufacture it and it failed. And it ended up just like completely, just being complete junk. It was just junk. This greatest heel. And you know what? Like you can look at what they did with the New Day, right? Turning these perennial baby faces into heels. You can, and what they did and the aftermath also. And you can see an exact pattern with what they did with John Cena when they decided to turn him. When John Cena was turned, they turned him a heel, but then they had nothing planned for him. But then they had to do something because it was his retirement tour, so they had to find things and feuds for him to do on his way out. Whereas the New Day, they did the heel turn, they didn't have anything planned, and all they did was just stop booking them. Stop putting them in important places. The last thing I saw, one of the last things I saw the New Day doing was them like dancing or doing some sort of shenanigans in some suite at an event somewhere, probably at a WrestleMania, where they're just like hanging out with all of the lower undercard dudes, and they're there as well. I'm like, this is the fucking New Day. You've got nothing to do for the New Day. Legitimately, like, it's preposterous. So this led to nothing. So what does this lead to? It leads to them not being booked, not being taken seriously, not getting any creative, nothing, like jack shit. What did these guys do? What did they decide? So what did they decide to do when TKO calls them up and say, "Hey, your contract's not up, but we'd like to restructure it. So here is the new lower price tag that goes along with it." What do you think they do? What the fuck? What about all these years that we've pumped into this company? What about all the effort, the injuries that we've piled up trying to make money for this company? Is this the value? Is this what you see our contribution was? Yeah, I can imagine how fucking insulting it can be. Anyway, they're gone. They've parted ways. What was the thing? It's a mutual parting of ways. And we're gonna call this spade a spade, okay? I know the language is very delicate, but I think we can all call this a release. I think this is all a release. You know, I don't think this is a mutual parting of ways necessarily. I don't think that it's like something is like, oh, well, thank you very much. I think this is a release. Why otherwise, first and foremost, why otherwise would you announce their departure on the same day that you were announcing that 2 other guys got released? Why is this all happening on the same day if these aren't releases? And second, as we talked about in that very article, they're on the 90-day non-compete. Well, you get on the 90-day non-compete when you're released. If the contract was just expired, they could show up wherever the next day. So they are released from the company. We're not going to dance around it. They asked for their release and they were granted their release. It's a release. They were released. No mutual parting of ways. Fuck that bullshit. They were released. Let's go back to using real fucking clear words. Shall we? They were released. And now, of course, I mean, look, now everyone is wondering, everyone is saying, you know, it's like, when do they show up in AEW? And I understand with gusto that the crowd, the folks that have nothing, that want nothing to do with WWE people being added to AEW, right? I understand there's an enormous crowd of people who are like, I don't want you coming in, vacuuming up WWE people and just, you know, throwing them on the roster in AEW. And that is a very, very valid sentiment to have. And I agree with it. I agree with it for the better part of it. It makes sense, right? Over the past 10 days or so, there's been a bunch of releases, you know, and people are like, where you're like, no, please do not add Aleister Black to AEW. Please do not bring him back. Please do not bring in, you know, Zelina Vega. Please do not bring in Andre Chase. You know, don't bring in Apollo Crews. I understand all of that, right? I understand. And I'm pretty sure that AEW is also in a position where they're like, well, we also have to be very careful of this to not just like pick up every stragglers either. I'm sure they're very aware of this, right? But this is the New Day. Again, like this is a team, this is an act that has been a part of the fabric of WWE and pro wrestling, big time names for a long, long time. And maybe still have something to give. And maybe have the expectation of something that people would be ready to pay to see. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. I am one of those who wants to see the Young Bucks versus the New Day. I'm one of those. I'm a guy who wants to, who would militate, that would go up to the barricades and fight for. I want this match. I would love to see this match. I would absolutely be enthralled at the idea, finally, of getting the Jacksons versus Kingston and Creed, and going at it, right? And I am so confident, despite the fact that both these dudes here on screen, those of you with the benefit of video right now, despite the fact that both these two guys they're banged up. These guys have been properly injured, right? They're banged up. I still feel like they have something to give and that they would want to give something back. And they'd be working the Jacksons. Complete confidence that this match would be great. It's legitimately one of the I don't want to call it a dream match because I don't think that's what it is, but a what if match. How about that? It's one of these what if matches that people have been scratching their chins about for years that we were convinced we'd never get. We have the opportunity to get it. I think we go for it You know, we're never, look, at this point, I don't give a shit about the Bucks versus the Usos anymore. The Usos are washed, completely washed. I couldn't give a rat's ass about the Bucks versus the Usos moving forward. But this one, I'm a little more intrigued. Yes, both guys are injured, but they haven't been wrestling. They haven't been doing anything really interesting for the past 18 months or so. Practically, we were on the road for doing nothing of interest for 2 years. So I'm completely confident that they still have something in the gas tank left. And if there was a team that I wouldn't be more confident in giving that gas to, weird analogy, but all right, it's the Bucks. It's the Jacksons. You let the Jacksons work their magic with these two dudes. I would love to see this. I would love to see this. And I'll tell you in what context I'd love to see it. I would love to see this as an attraction. I would love to have these two guys come in, but on a short-term contract. I want short-term contracts to be normalized in pro wrestling again. I talked about this when we were speculating about AJ Styles. And it's the same situation with these dudes here. What were you saying about AJ Styles back then, Warren? Well, this is what I was saying. AJ Styles in AEW, I don't want him running up and down the roster. I don't care. If you bring AJ Styles into the company, into AEW, there's two matches I want to see. I want to see him fight Will Ospreay. I want to see him fight Kenny Omega again. That's what I want to see. Everything else, superfluous, don't give a shit, doesn't matter. I don't care about anything else. Those are the two matches that I want. You bring AJ Styles, and this is what I had put out there. Bring in AJ Styles for a month, not a month, but a year contract as an attraction, just like you do with Andre the Giant back in the day, exactly like you do with Le Géant Ferré back in the day, where you'd bring him in for a set number of dates, and then he'd hit the bricks. You'd bring him in for a year, a month, 6 months, whatever. You'd know exactly how to book him, and then he hits the bricks. And why would Andre do this? Because he'd know that he'd move from territory to territory and make more money with every new deal he'd get. That's how, because he was an attraction. He wasn't a guy that you could count on permanently on your roster. He was an attraction. And that's how you have to perceive it here. Now, I understand that we don't have the benefit of the territories and going around and everyone making money wherever they decide to go. I understand. It's not exactly a one-for-one comparison, but understand where I'm coming from with the attraction angle. The New Day in AEW is an attraction. I don't really care for anything else they have to offer, really. Okay. Maybe I'd like to see FTR and 2026 FTR and 2026 New Day go out. That I'd be like, sure. But yeah, okay. How about 2026 Hurt Syndicate and 2026 New Day? That could be interesting. Look, you could do a lot worse than give me Shelton Benjamin and Kofi Kingston going after each other, right? But it's like, the Swirl in the New Day, it's like the rest. I'm like, the Bang Bang Gang versus the New Day, whatever. That's not interesting to me. And I think the interest, ultimately, and even Cope and Christian versus these two guys, I'm like, pfft. But maybe that's me. But I could also understand certain fans going, yeah, this would be really fucking interesting. The idea that I'm putting forward, but I know it's a pipe dream, is that the New Day come in for a year, you use them up, you give all the big what if matches, and at the end of the year, you shake their hands. Thank you very much. We all made a lot of money. Until next time, type of thing. I'm aware that that's a pipe dream. I'm very, very much aware that that's not something that is necessarily that is very likely not going to happen. But I think that would be the best possible outcome. But, I think ultimately they're going to go to AEW. Unless here's the two probable scenarios are this. They go to AEW and they sign a contract for a couple of years, and it is what it is. Or they decide to sit back, not move a muscle, not do anything to provoke the ire of World Wrestling Entertainment, TKO, and wait for that Legends contract to come. It's either or. It's either or. Because what? Are they going to go to TNA, the number 2 promotion in the United States? They're gonna go hang out with old Carlos. They're gonna do MLW. Like, I know MLW has kind of become a haven for former WWE guys who aren't getting interest from anywhere else. You know, like Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin and Donovan Dijak. But the New Day are all bigger names than all those 3. Like, the New Day are a legit attraction. If I were to go onto WWE Spaces on social media, I am convinced that this news is not going over well. I'm convinced that WWE fans are upset at this, kind of like they were upset with Kairi Sane. I'm sure. I don't think they have a New Japan run in them, these 2 guys. I don't think they have a New Japan run in them, or, you know, go scum on the indies and bounce around, you know, all Japan. Do you think All Japan will host the return of the New? I mean, Odyssey Jones is there, right? There was that fucking bullshit that they could revisit if they wanted. You know, that's not happening. Mexico, well, you know, their only destination is CMLL. They're not going to go work for AAA. They're not going to go work for The Crash. Maybe they'll go work for LM52. You know, probably not. You know, look, the only plausible option is AEW. And I legitimately think this is going to happen. This is going to happen because these are guys who are beloved by their peers. These are guys who are legitimately beloved by the people they worked with and the people that they encountered. Look, you've already got MJF today on social media going, dropping hints like, say, it's a new day. Yes, it is. You got Cash Wheeler doing the same thing. I've heard some things. Like the locker room is the locker room would. It's the complete opposite reaction from what I got. It's the complete opposite reaction that I got hearing about the New Day than I got hearing about Malachi Black when he was released. Like, it's night and day. It's not the same. So, you know, everything is set. You know, I think it's and you know, I know I might slightly contradict myself here, because I know I just said, well, they're banged up, they're injured, we don't know how much gas they have. They probably do. And, you know, they probably do have some gas left, but how far can they go and the injuries and whatnot? But here's the thing, like, I legitimately believe, seeing some things that came from them in the past, you know, and how they've always looked out for each other and how honest they've been. They've been honest to the point sometimes where they've let some sentiments sort of about what's going on backstage or certain people seep through, right? Famously, how they reacted to Hulk Hogan's apology, right? That they were like, yeah, he can come and say, I apologize for what I said, but, you know, you got to show for it. You know, actions speak louder than words type of thing. Like, they did, you know, knowing these guys, I think they feel like they have something to prove and they want to sort of stick it to whoever's doing this. And they're like, we've still got stuff in the tank. We still have something to provide and to give. Well, then go ahead and do it. Please come and show us. Come in, wrestle the Bucks, wrestle FTR, wrestle. Look, if you're going to stay for a couple of years, wrestle everyone. Here's something you could do, AEW. You want a free idea? Here it is. Have yourself a tag team Continental Classic. You bring these guys in. You got your own tag teams. Bring in the Motor City Machine Guns. Bring in, bring in a tag team from Japan. Bring in Bishamon from Japan, or the Knockout Bros. Bring in Volador Jr. and Magnus Black Tiger. You know, whatever. Bring in the Chavez brothers, and then have yourself a really fucking fun Continental Classic with tag teams with a bunch of matches and matchups that you're like, shit, we've never seen this before. This is so fucking exciting. And just, you know, go ham on it. Have a good time. Give something that the fans will never have had the experience to see ever again. And then you don't have to do it every year. Just do it this year because you've got this gaggle of great tag teams at your disposal. Just do it. Have a C2 of tag teams. Never mind the singles guys this year. This year, the C2, it's tag teams. Let's do that. And bring in the New Day for that allotted amount of time. For a couple of months to do that, for the warm-up, get them involved, establish some feuds, and then the finals, you have it. It's the Bucks versus the New Day, and everyone's fucking happy. You do this at the World's End, and everyone loses their fucking mind. It's simple. It's simple. And I'm convinced these guys have something to prove. I'm convinced these guys they've got something in the tank, and they want to show that they still can do it, that they still belong in the conversation. You could do a lot worse than bringing in the New Day as an attraction to get people excited, give ourselves some never seen matches. The Bucks, man, the Bucks. You've got the fucking Bucks. They're all they've been doing is talking about, our legacy, our retirement. Do this before the Jacksons decide to pull the plug, please. Anyway, look, my point, ultimately what I'm saying is that the New Day are going to end up in AEW. I think unless they absolutely don't want to do anything outside of WWE and wait for the lazy checks, which is fine too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be condescending here. They're just going to wait for the Legends contract and then, do one quarterly appearance on, a big pay-per-view, and that'll be at, Anyway. All right, moving on. The other two guys who have been released today are JC Mateo, FKA Jeff Cobb, and Tonga Loa, FKA Tonga Loa. They have also been removed from the roster. They have been they've been sent their pink slip. Use whatever firing analogy you want here. Look, let's start with Tonga Loa. Look, I don't think anyone is surprised. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I was shocked that he was brought in the first place. You remember when WWE brought in the Guerrillas of Destiny, and that was announced and was like, they're coming in. And all the WWE fans were like, one of the greatest New Japan tag teams of all time. The Guerrillas of Destiny, WWE wins again type of thing. And all of us New Japan watchers were just sitting back and going like, well, I mean, Tama Tonga's fine. But look, kids, don't get excited about this Tonga Loa guy. He's shit. He stinks. We're happy that you get him. We're happy that he's going to be your problem now. We don't have an issue with that. And they were all excited until he started wrestling, and then they all realized that we were fucking right. Because he would continuously embarrass himself with these incredible botches, right? He's just completely washed. He is completely and utterly washed. Like nothing to contribute. And the thing here is that, look, no way in hell this guy's going to AEW. Like, there is no way this guy is making his way to All Elite Wrestling. But he could go back to New Japan. I would not be surprised in the least, in fact, if that is the situation that happens, where he gives a call back and Gedo is like, yeah, come back. Their departure went very well. There were no issues. It didn't finish on a sour note. It was done the right way, and they left, and it was all perfectly fine. And they've been and Tonga Loa has been a great soldier for New Japan for years, doing what he's told. Like, not an issue. And that kind of work and that kind of loyalty it's something that sticks with New Japan. That's part of the culture. So Gedo was like, yeah, you'll always have a job here. Kind of like with Carl Anderson a couple of years ago, right? It's the same situation. Now, my issue with that is that he's going to come back. If he does come back, he'll come back in a promotion that I actually watch. And there is no universe that exists where I would be excited to watch Tangaloa come back like in fucking House of Torture and hang around with Chase Owens and Don Fale and fucking Yujiro Takahashi, and then this fucking guy, like this, like it sounds absolutely awful. My issue with WWE firing this guy is that there's a very high percentage that he might end up in a promotion that I actually watch. Whereas before, he was WWE's problem. He was out of sight, out of mind, and I liked it. Can't believe there's a possibility that he's going to come back. I don't know what, look, there's, maybe an MLW might get excited about this, but I don't know. I don't know what this guy does. This guy is terrible. He is terrible. There is nothing of interest that he can offer. And my anxiety is through the roof at the idea of him coming back to New Japan. Might be slightly exaggerating, but I'm not looking forward to the idea of him coming back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yuck, yuck, icky, icky poo. Now, as for JC Mateo, Jeff Cobb, I feel a little more sympathetic to Jeff Cobb getting released. Because look, this was a guy who had a whole ass life in Japan. Like he married, from what I understand, like he's married to a Japanese lady. They have children or a kid. I'm not quite sure. He had his entire life set in Japan, and he uprooted everything with this offer that he got from WWE. Uprooted his entire life, brought everyone into the US, naturalization and citizenry and, enrolling the kids in school, all of that. And then how long has it been? It's been just about a year, right? A little over a year, something to that effect. It's been has it even been a full year? Because let's not forget, one of the reasons why I feel sympathetic for him is he was one of the bargaining chips that was used by New Japan to entice WWE into allowing Shinsuke Nakamura to be the guy, to be Hiroshi Tanahashi's opponent at his retirement match at Wrestle Kingdom this year. So it hasn't even been a full year. I'm convinced it hasn't even been a full year then. So Jeff Cobb, like he was used a little bit on that end, right? Like he was already sending out feelers, and there was already like something going on. That it's not like this was the only reason, but they allowed Jeff Cobb to squeeze out of his engagements with New Japan so that he could go faster to WWE, and New Japan was like, hey, keep us in mind. You can do us a solid then, right? With Shinsuke Nakamura. And that never happened. That never materialized to begin with. Jeff Cobb still had his job until now. And so I feel a little bad for him, considering everything. You could also say, well, it's the life of a professional wrestler. It's like, it's like a major league sports player. And you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. Like sports players can be traded at any given moment, and if they have a wife, a girlfriend, kids, it's the same situation. I'm just not, I'm not like going to cry over it. I'm not going to scream out injustice. I'm going to point it out because it's a shitty thing to do to begin with. The guy hasn't even been working there for a full year, or close to a full year yet, right? Let me confirm that. He made his debut on May 10. So he came in a little before, but his debut was on May 10. That's nuts. That is crazy. Like it's not even a full year. That's shitty. I mean, that is shitty, right? And I'm going to point it out, but again, like I'm not going to cry out, oh, what a fucking injustice and whatnot. Like this is like, it's also the nature of the game, but it's a shitty thing to do, but it's also the nature of the game, but it's also a shitty thing to do, but it's also the nature of the game. So, he'll be fine. He'll figure something out. He's been in this type of position before, I'm sure. Maybe not as all encompassing, but now he's settled in the US. So, so listen, what's next for Jeff Cobb? I think everything is pretty open for him. Over 40 years old, not quite the Jeff Cobb who ran the gauntlet at, in the Battle of Los Angeles a few years ago. Not, but still a capable pro wrestler. As far as I know, I haven't watched anything that he's done in WWE, but you know, I've always liked Jeff Cobb. I've always had a soft spot for him. You know, I've seen some really funny things. People posting things like, "Oh, fuck you, Jeff Cobb. If you know you made the bad choice, you could have been in Callum Newman's spot right now." I'm like, no. No, I don't think New Japan has ever seen Jeff Cobb as top guy material, and that's not the point. I don't think he would have been in Callum Newman's spot right now. Absolutely not. But I think he'd still be in a solid mid card spot. You know, it's a shame for him because I was excited for him because I think he had hit a ceiling in New Japan, and I was like, good for him that he gets to go somewhere else and try out new things and, you know, just dip his toes in other waters and see how things go. Right? I was very excited for him. So does he go back to New Japan? I'm sure that again, he could go back whenever he wants because his departure was also very amicable as far as I understand. There wasn't anything bad about it. But does he want to go back? Does New Japan need him? Maybe. Look, if they're, you know, listen, if they bring back Tonga Loa, but not Jeff Cobb, you know, we're back to topsy-turvy land. But, you know, like Cobb, I'm convinced. What I'm trying to say is that I'm pretty sure that there's an open door. There's a spot for him in New Japan if he wants it. That's what I'm trying to say in so many words. I'm pretty sure. But does he want to go back? That's the main question. And if I were him and I was already trying to explore other avenues and trying to do other things, I'm not in a rush to go back. You know, if I were him, I'm not, but you know, I'd try to explore other things. What are these other things that you could explore? I mean, I think he could fit in great in Mexico. I think Jeff Cobb in Mexico would do great. In CMLL, I think he'd be great. I think he'd bring something completely different to the table. I think he's just agile enough to be able to hang with the luchadors. I mean, he's not doing fucking corkscrew topes to the floor, but he's athletic. He can leap. He has the explosiveness. I think he could work. I think a little tour of Mexico would be a good idea for him. I think a place like MLW would open him with open arms as well. I think TNA would welcome him with open arms as well. You know, it is the number 2 promotion in the country after all. And the main question, of course, is AEW, right? And he has had some stints in AEW, right? They've tried him out a couple of times, coming in like some kind of enforcer, some kind of killer, right? Didn't amount to anything. Were there feelings attached to this? Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. He's no stranger to the AEW audience. I guess my main question would be, is what would be the spot that he'd take? What would he serve on the AEW roster that isn't already served? More importantly, right? Big, tough, athletic guy, pushing over 40. You know, mobile but not too mobile. Big, strong guy. And Tony Khan. He's not necessarily renowned for being able to book big guys, you know, in his promotion really well. So, I mean, you could bring him in to the Don Callis family and instantly you've got shit for him to do. And, you know, he can be an enforcer type like Lance Archer. You know, you could see him be slotted in the same type of level in the Don Callis family as let's say, Mark Davis, right? Where he's not like in the bottom like with Rocky, but not at the top with, you know, Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita and Okada, for instance, and Andrade. I think he could fit in there, but you know, I don't know what Jeff Cobb does in AEW, quite frankly. I don't think it would be a terrible choice. I just don't know what he'd bring to the table that would be all that exciting. You know, I think there are other cuts that have happened in WWE over the past few that are much more exciting. That are much more exciting than Jeff Cobb. quite frankly. And again, like it's not, it's not a. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to demean his contributions. I'm not trying to be mean to him. I'm just like, So that's it. So Jeff Cobb, I'm not quite sure exactly about AEW. I think he's got a home in New Japan. I think he'd be much more interesting in Mexico. That would be something I'd be legitimately interested in seeing. I think MLW, TNA, they'd all welcome him with open arms, though. What's the best spot? I don't know. I don't know. Probably New Japan because he's got a clear and present history, and they'll take good care of him. I think that's probably it. But well, does he want to start doing the transatlantic flights and whatnot? That could be a deal breaker as well. From what I understand, there are still some names that are circulating amongst the people who have been cut but haven't been announced yet. I have seen, as I'm recording this, that Angel Garza tweeted a picture of him and Humberto Carrillo where they're dissipating, right? They're doing the snap gimmick, right? From the Avengers movie, Thanos with the snap. They're doing that. So I'm like, okay, does that mean that they're gone? Probably. I mean, why else would you be posting that? There might be a couple of names. I've heard of another name as well. That doesn't seem to have been confirmed by anyone else yet. So I'm not gonna put this down on audio without anything really solid. So yeah, that's what we have so far. That's what we have today, I should say, and so far, considering there might be more. But yeah, I mean, the New Day, that's a huge release, and I'm very curious to see how this is going to go moving forward. Those are my thoughts for now. Folks, it is time to review New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestling Dontaku show, both nights 1 and 2. That took place on May 3rd and 4th, 2026, because we're talking about the 2026 edition, over there in Fukuoka, Japan, at the Fukuoka Convention Center. Now, do you remember a couple of months ago, I reviewed a show from New Japan called Sakura Genesis? You remember that show? It was a show that I really, really liked, that I enjoyed tremendously. I thought it was a very, very good show. I had a very good time watching it, and I was particularly happy about how the show turned out because previous to that, we had watched the New Beginning show, the New Beginning 2026, which I thought was not very good. That I thought was, repeating all the same mistakes that New Japan kept doing and was waiting for a reignition. And I thought that despite the fact that we were starting a new year, that New Japan was starting off this new year basically the same way that it finished the past 3 or 4 years with, the same rote, uninspired booking. And then we get to Sakura Genesis, and Sakura Genesis felt like a breath of fresh air. It was an eventful show, lots of stuff happening on it. Of course, the big world title change, and I was showering it with praise. I was using all sorts of great language to put over all of the really fun and interesting stuff that they were doing, how they were finally apparently treating their up and coming stars as big deals, and of course the unpredictability factor that sort of snuck in with Callum Newman taking the title off Yota Tsuji, and I was excited in looking forward to what the future was going to bring for New Japan, but I also made it very, very clear that I was holding New Japan still at arm's length. I was not committing to jumping all the way back in to the Shin Nihon freak way of life because I've been burnt by this company too many times. It feels like every so often they will do the worst thing they can do, and that is give me hope, only to yank that away. And I was prepared I was prepared for this. I was not letting myself get overwhelmed and sucked into some hype or some true believer stuff that finally New Japan had found its footing again. I'm like, Sakura Genesis was a very good show. It really did land some great things for the future, but New Japan has to do a lot more to regain my trust than just book one good wrestling card. So that takes us to Dontaku. And I don't remember when I've watched such a mid card from top to bottom, just absolutely mid. And I say I don't remember when the last time that happened, but I probably just have to think about it for more than 2 minutes. And okay, look, let's abandon this. Let's abandon the over the top comment here. This was an incredibly mid wrestling card that they were able to sustain over 2 nights. There literally is one big time excellent match off of 2 nights of pro wrestling. There's another match that I really, really liked as well that, didn't quite hit the highs, but was good enough, was very, very good, and I enjoyed, and I thought it was a good time. But the rest of this, both nights of these shows, I was looking for spark. I was looking for life. I was looking for things just to get me, just to make me feel something. And what we got, I believe, what we ended up getting were 2 nights which were essentially glorified Road 2 shows. Particularly night 1. Like if you put if you put a gun to my head first and foremost, if you put the bullet in there, I won't be able to respond much after that. But if you put a gun to my head and you say, Warren, you have to pick one of these 2 nights, which one? I'm gonna go with night 2. I think night 2 is an overall better show than night 1 was, but overall, man, like this was just like the most average, rote, going through the motions wrestling that I've seen in a short while at the very least. But I'm not saying that it was necessarily bad. I think there were some bad spots, I just think everything was mid. The stuff that could have, the stuff that had the potential to wake me up, wake the crowd up, get everyone into it was just all very placid. And that's not why I watch wrestling. I don't watch wrestling to, get into a new age type of zen where, I've got the Orinoco flow playing in the background to create the mood. That's not how it works. I want pro wrestling to come in and hit me in the feels. I want to get excited. I want a bit of an adrenaline rush when it gets really, really good. When pro wrestling is great, there's nothing that can compare, honestly. But then when it's average, yikes! And especially when you're sitting down essentially to watch what was it, like 6 hours total, something like that. I don't quite know. 6.5, 7, I don't know overall because I didn't watch the shows live. I do the gimmick on New Japan World, and and then it only you can, when you don't watch it live, all you can do really is just watch it segment per segment, so you don't get the full runtime. So I don't know how long it was, but it was long enough for me to go, you know what, I could be doing a lot of other things right now. And but I committed to watching it and reviewing it. It's New Japan. I want to stay. It's a promotion that I hold dear to my heart. I want to stay involved in it. I want to stay abreast with what's happening. And I'd be lying if I wasn't completely disinterested in the cards. But I was expecting a little more life, a little more fervor than this. And I will give them this, okay? I don't think either night, the cards of either night, I don't think were particularly strong to begin with. Neither night was really putting your best foot forward. Lots of lots of tag matches and multi-man tag matches and whatnot. I mean, I understand this was not the best night for the best two nights of inspiring, exciting matches, which also leads me to the initial statement, which actually came from Neil over at Voices of Wrestling on his review of Night 1, and I just pointed at it and said, yeah, I agree. These are just glorified Road 2 shows, both nights. That's what we got. We got Road 2 shows disguised as a big show, and the Road 2 energy was there. The Road 2 energy was 100% there, but that's not why we were watching. That's not what we were promised. Look, I mean, it's New Japan, and it means that they will always find a way to just subvert my expectations, but lower them, essentially, right? To not subvert them in the good way where I have these expectations and they surpass them. No, they'll always somehow find a way to just go under what I'm expecting. And I was already expecting, I can't trust them. I don't trust them. I can't. They proved it to me again. They're not worthy of my trust yet. I always hope for the best. I especially after a show like Sakura Genesis, what I like we said, but there's nothing here. There was nothing in the show that would reignite any grand passion. There just wasn't. There really just wasn't. And I think that's that feeling of the cards being underwhelming were also translated into attendance, where Night 1 attendance was at 2,477 people reportedly in the building, and Night 2 was 3,603 people in attendance. I mean, that's a significant difference from Night 1 to Night 2, which I understand, quite frankly, because Night 2 was the better card overall, had more stars on it, and had the big world championship, heavyweight championship main event. I don't know why I'm stuttering already. I mean, I know why I stutter. That's just part of my charm, but I don't know why I'm doing it already. So how does that compare to last year's Dontaku? I'm glad you asked. 2,903 people showed up for Night 1, which had the Loser Leaves Bullet Club Steel Cage 10-man tag team match, the House of Torture Bullet Club thing, that was an absolute disaster. Quite, but like a fun type disaster. And also had Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino, which from what I recall, I enjoyed quite a bit. So that was Night 1, 2,903. But Night 2 drew 5,407 people. Main event was Hiroki Goto versus Callum Newman, which of course was the replacement match for Jeff Cobb, who had just finished up with New Japan and was heading over to WWE. Also in the co-main event, we had Yota Tsuji versus Yuya Uemura. So a little under 3,000 for Night 1, 5,407 for Night 2. And the biggest night that we could do this year in 2026 was 3,603. Look, is it an indictment on Callum Newman already? It's like, is it already, are we already having some proof positive that it's not working? Well, it's his first show. Let's give this some time to breathe, but obviously, we'll be able to have paint a better picture in a couple of months as we get a little more data coming in. But Otherwise, no. I mean, we're not off to a great start business-wise. If last year's show had practically like 2,000 more people in the building, well, yeah, I mean, it's probably not a good sign. But again, and I want to stress this, that being said, this was a better card than night one, like I said, but it's not a great card overall. This is not a very inspiring card. Dontaku's card last year was much better than this. I mean, this was not spectacular. This was not anything that would grip your imagination. Like, you know, like if the World Heavyweight Championship match didn't do it for you, I don't think there's anything really on the rest of the card that really would have stimulated you. Maybe there's one other match, maybe seeing Will Ospreay again, but is that enough to draw? Well, clearly not. So we might as well get to it. Might as well start breaking both of these nights down, and we're going to start with night one, where Andrade El Idolo defeated Yota Tsuji to become the new IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. Apparently this match is very divisive from what I understand. Like, I haven't been around much. My typical Puro hangouts and whatnot. I've been trying to stay away as much as possible until the end of the show, so I can come up with my own thoughts, not get myself tainted. But with what I've seen in a couple of people that I've spoken to, apparently this main event was divisive. Apparently, it seems like you either liked it or you didn't. And I'm on the side of people who liked this. I thought it was a big physical main event that was well built and hit a genuinely exciting gear before a creative yet slightly strange flash finish, if we'll be honest. Lots of big moves, real escalation, both guys committing fully to the spectacle, and like the DDT on the post at the end is one of the wildest things I have seen in a while. Like, and a creative finish. I thought it was great. And in this idea where throughout the match the guys are just they're just throwing all of their big moves at each other. Like, there wasn't it wasn't small digit manipulation throughout this match here. Early on in the match, they're attempting big dives early, and they're doing they're doing like thunderous chops on each other, right? Like, they're playing hard on this one, and we're doing the Spanish flies, we're doing suicide dives, we're doing the three amigos and forearms and superplexes and moonsaults. Like, it's the whole 9 yards. Like, we're throwing everything at the other guy. The chop exchanges are just blistering. I think it's fantastic. And Yota Tsuji tries to do the Boston Crab, and just everything is there. But Andrade just was too good. He was just too good. He was the better man that night. That's all there is to it. But yeah, like, if you really want me to dig into the nitty gritty here, well, I liked Tsuji and Andrade's match that they had at the New Beginning USA show. I thought that was pretty good, and I think I liked it a little more than this match. And I'm still kind of disappointed, and now I'm really disappointed that Gabe Kidd didn't end up in this spot, because Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji have real chemistry with each other, where I think at this point Yota Tsuji and Andrade don't. And I was a little surprised, because I really feel like Andrade is on a roll. I really do think like he's on a roll this year. He's been fantastic. He's to my sensibilities, he's having a career year so far. I'd be very happy to listen to anyone challenge that and say, no, Warren, you should go check him in 2014 or whatever the fuck, right? Whatever. But like right now, I think he's having a spectacular year, and it's like, it's strange that these guys couldn't elevate each other. And I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to point any fingers, but like, for me, Yota Tsuji has been a guy who's had to work really hard to get to a point where I legitimately consider him a top guy, because because there was a time that they really wanted to make him a top guy, but he wasn't acting like a top guy. He didn't have the vibes of a top guy. He definitely wasn't having big time matches like a top guy. Like I've said in multiple New Japan reviews since last year, I think the G1 unlocked something in him last year. Maybe just the idea of just being told, hey, you're going to be winning the world championship at the Tokyo Dome come January. You're going to be the guy. So maybe that was motivation enough for him to go, okay, then I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to step into that role. And in many ways, he has stepped into the role. And I thought he has improved tremendously. And I thought, I feel like since the G1 last year, Yota Tsuji has practically morphed into, maybe a not complete vision of what I think people had for him, but one that is very close to it. A very close copy, I guess, homunculus of what people. That sounds awful. It sounds like I'm belittling it. But no, like I really think like he's very close to being like the top guy that this company really, really needs. I still think someone who can have like incredible amounts of charisma and then have this exceptional work rate truly would be like the superstar that they need that could fill the role. But Yota Tsuji's not far behind, and I think maybe look, there's always room for evolution. There's always room to change. Maybe this whole experience will also help him get that extra level as well. Like right now, I think a lot of people consider him to be an early favorite to win the G1. I think a lot of people feeling that since New Japan went with the decision to strip him of all the titles, that this year's G1 would be his to win, essentially, and then go back to the Dome and maybe get another victory, or at least be another Dome contender at the very least. And maybe it just doesn't click with Andrade. Maybe Andrade would have wanted to do too much of his match. I don't know. Look, I didn't see anything glaring that would make me believe that it was weighed heavily one way or another. I didn't see anything. Maybe Tsuji was just like bummed that he was losing his titles, and it reflected in his work, and he wasn't like max effort Tsuji, because he's like, I'm losing these belts, who cares? And I'm losing them to an AEW guy, even though Andrade, but like, because that's Tsuji's thing as well. He doesn't like AEW, right? We don't know. I can't tell you exactly when the work ends and the shoot begins in regards to Tsuji's dislike of AEW, but his dislike of AEW is there. It does exist, and how intense it is and whatnot. I couldn't tell you, but it is a legitimate thing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a solid 3 3/4 star match. It's not anything that I'm going to sit here and recommend that you go see. It's not like make time out of your day, subscribe to New Japan World. You got to see this match. No, not really. You really don't. But it was good. It was very, very good. It was a very, very good match on a show that I was expecting maybe something to blow my socks off, because I was just waiting for something to happen, but it didn't quite happen. Anyway, after the match, Andrade is doing his post-victory speech in the ring, and then he's interrupted by Drilla Maloney, followed by Shota Umino, and they both want to line up for a shot at the global title. Then Andrade has this great idea where he says, you, me, triple threat. I'm like, oh, triple threat, huh? Commentary immediately went, a three-way match, Walker. Thank God. You know, I want to point something out before we could. I should have said this at the start, but it's coming to me now. Look, I love New Japan and everything, okay, but I'm really, really sick of their production. Okay, the camera work in New Japan typically is very good. I think that they have some of the best camera work in all of pro wrestling to really make you feel like you're watching a sport. I think they excel at that. Except on night 2, there was some very, very strange. There was a bit of very strange camera work. And on some occasions, we're like, wow, this is weird. But overall, like the production of New Japan, like why is it that these cameras, this equipment that they use, all seem to have like Vaseline, a light film of Vaseline right on the lens every time. I don't understand. I don't know why. Because and then I compare that with Stardom Grand Queendom, the All-Star Grand Queendom show from 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, or whatever. 2 weekends ago. And that production was amazing, like legitimately, like crisp and beautiful, and the camera work was great as well. But like the picture quality, and I think they had one of these 4K cameras as well. Everything was just like popping, and the audio mix was great. And New Japan, it's always like, it's like they're picking up the audio from the venue and not plugged in directly into the console, so you sort of, it's, and sometimes I wonder, why are we still doing this? Why is New Japan still doing this? It's the biggest fucking wrestling promotion in Japan. It's supposed to be anyway. And then, and this is not to belittle Stardom, because Stardom is probably the most interesting wrestling promotion in Japan right now. And, so it's not to belittle them. I think they're doing a fantastic job, but it's like, what the point ultimately is, like both of these promotions work under the same umbrella. It's the same company. Why is it that Stardom has like the better production value, or I should say very good production value, when New Japan's is still like, it's the same. If you were to watch a Wrestle Kingdom from 2018 and you were to watch this show here, the production is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It's the same. It's the same picture quality. It's the same camera, like the same audio mix. Nothing has changed. Also, let's not forget that Andrade was sent back out for his streamer celebration, because he does this promo thing, and then he leaves. He's just like, he drops the mic and he hits the bricks, and they're like, the music's not playing, because production is like, he shouldn't be leaving right now. We have to do the confetti cannons, the streamers, right? We got to do the streamer cannons. He's leaving. So he goes all the way to the back. And then for sure someone tells him, no, you got to go back. You got to go back. Oh, he walks back to the ring to get his big celebratory moment. Anyway, congratulations, Andrade. The rest of this show, we're going to go through it, but holy smokes, I don't have much to say, particularly positive things. Like for instance, Red Narita successfully retaining the never open weight championship against Boltin Oleg. I mean, I'm giving this match a gentleman's 3, because there was enough here technically to support that, but I thought the finish was junk, with Dick Togo distracting the referee while Narita's on his shoulders, and the low blow, and Bolton falls into he's got him on his shoulders, right? And he has him tapping out. And then there's a low blow by Dick Togo, and the referee's distracted, and Boltin Oleg, look, it's just a fucking mess. It's just a fucking mess. I don't even want to walk through it. I fucking hated the finish. House of Torture doing House of Torture things just sucks the air out of the room. And Narita is a deeply uninteresting persona in professional wrestling, and the House of Torture gimmickry is not something I'm going to rant on today because I've got a whole other night of this professional wrestling show to talk about. It's all awful. I don't like it. And then Aaron Wolf runs in post-match for a save after the House of Torture put the boots to Oleg, and he comes in and he immediately challenges Narita for the never openweight title. And I'm like, are we ever going to end this? Are we ever? Like earlier in the evening, you have an encounter between Oleg and Wolf. And I'm like, oh, finally, let's fucking graduate. Let's move on. Yes, like, and this is actually something I'd like to see. You know, two Olympians transition to pro wrestling. Fuck yeah, I want to see, like, that has a little more juice to Aaron Wolf running with Ren Narita again. And I'll tell you one thing. Here's the thing that really fucking annoys me in this situation. This is what really fucking annoys me, is that we're circling all the way back to Aaron Wolf once again for the Never title to win it back. And there was no point in him losing it in the process. There was no point in him losing it in the first place against Ren Narita if we're just going to circle back like a couple of months later and have him win it again when Ren Narita hasn't done anything of interest, and neither has Aaron Wolf. If Wolf had lost the title and then was like, well, let's bump him up on the card a little bit. Let's go have him mix it up with the real top guys of the company, right? Let's go have him mix it up with Oiwa and Yumera and Umino and Takeshita and Oleg and whatnot. Like, what if we did that instead? You know? Or have him feud with Tai Chi, which that also would be a fucking blast. But they didn't do anything of that. They kept him in the orbit of House of Torture. I could not care less about Aaron Wolf right now. And this whole... The minute that they jettison him away from the House of Torture, there will be hope. But until then, I am so fucking bored. I have no interest in all of this. And yeah, I hear the things and I read the articles and whatnot. I have trouble believing that this guy, that New Japan, the office or whoever, are worried that this guy is not ready, that he cannot hold his own, and that they have to do all of these smoke and mirrors. I have trouble believing that this is the case. I legitimately do, because I think there's a lot of little things that he does that he's very, very good at. His selling is top notch. Like a guy who's come in and has already picked up on selling as well as he does, as well as he has, is tremendous. Like I don't know, and again, like it brings back to the initial discussion. What does he have to do? What does Aaron Wolf, a big, thick guy who looks legit strong, looks like a legit tough guy, what does he have to do in the ring to get himself over? Does he have to do, fucking Phoenix splashes and space tiger drops? No, he doesn't have to do any of that. What he has to do is look big and beefy and beat the piss out of guys. He's got to judo throw dudes. He's got to scoop them up and dump them on their heads. Maybe he does a top rope body splash because he's so big he shouldn't be doing that kind of shit, and then locks them up into submissions and has them cry for their mother. Like, lock in a Kimura. A Kimura's a double wrist lock, right? They do all of this, I think. I don't, but you know what I mean? Like that's what you want Aaron Wolf to do. I don't necessarily want Aaron Wolf to have this extremely polished arsenal of moves that will befuddle and amaze all onlookers. I want him to come in and kick some ass. It's the most simple thing. And for some reason, New Japan thinks that this guy's not ready. I don't understand. Like, I don't see the problems. But of course, I don't see I won't be able to see them if they're always doing matches like this one where, you know, his weaknesses are covered up by House of Torture nonsense and him eating shit for the majority of the match. So of course I'm not seeing the weaknesses in his game. I just don't understand why he has to be saddled with the House of Torture and the Hantai nerds. I don't understand why he has like the lower rung of the Hantai, like, you know, Yo and Master Wato. What are we even doing? How is that helping this guy out? I don't understand. Anyway, Bolt and Oleg rules. That's one assessment here. Then we had the Aaron Wolf versus Don Fale. Aaron Wolf defeating Don Fale. You go back and you listen to on stream last week, and you listen to my preview of this show, and I say exactly, look, I said I know exactly what's going to happen in this match, and it happened. I said that they were going to build the match around the idea of, oh, can Aaron Wolf lift the big fat guy, and then he'll lift him up into an angle slam and get the win, right? Oh, what the fuck? Exactly what happened. They built it throughout the match. It was like, trying to lift him. Another time he can. And then the third time he scoop slams him, and then he picks him up again and does the ankle slam. That's exactly what it was supposed to be. But of course, we had to have Chase Owens running in. You know, we had to have some interference because this sucks, because it's House of Torture. Anyway, it was, you know, 2 3/4 stars, whatever. I thought Wolf did a very good job here. Like, here's another example of is this guy ready or not? Like, what are we afraid of? He was able to have a competent match. This literal rookie had a competent match against Don Fale. All right? I think he's good. I think we're ready to graduate him and move on here. The Unbound Company group, which was composed of Daiki Nagai, Drilla Maloney, Robbie X, Shingo Takagi, and Taiji Ishimori, defeated the United Empire quartet of Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, Jake Lee, Jacob Austin Young, and Zane J. The Unbound Company got the win here. It was the best match on the card up until that point. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, crisp action that built genuinely to exciting spots, and Shingo and Newman having their confrontations as the centerpiece, of course, because that was the setup for the night before. But this was absolutely not a Road 2 show, right, folks? Hot babyface sequence in the closing stretch was exactly the kind of stuff that was needed to wake the crowd up. Jake Lee can go kick rocks. God, I hate this tall, gangly, pasty, goofy ass hack. You can take him and his clown masks and tell him to hit the bricks. Anyway, Drilla Maloney pinned Zane J with the Drilla Killa. So there you go, 3.5 stars. Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino defeated the House of Torture duo of Chase Owens and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Perfectly competent, good, dare I say. Honestly, more tolerable than most House of Torture outings. The action was decent. The interference was kept to a minimum until it wasn't. The ref bump and Yujiro's cane shot, and all that stuff in the closing stretch. Umino got the win with the second chapter, and of course this created more tension for the Chase Owens Konosuke Takeshita situation, where Takeshita was still convinced that Chase Owens stole his TV title belt, but Owens is like, I didn't steal it. I didn't, and indeed he didn't. We'd find out on night 2 who did. I don't know. What did I say? 3 stars? I guess 2 3/4. No, we'll keep it at 3. I thought the baby faces worked well. And they also established a burgeoning, not burgeoning, but reluctant friendship between Shota Umino and Konosuke Takeshita, which would again come to pass on night 2. Great Okan Henare and Will Ospreay defeated Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, and Tetsuya Matsumoto. Gee, I wonder who took the pin here. In a nice little 3 3/4 star match. A good little match that did exactly what it needed to do. Matsumoto was solid in his young lion role, and the real story here was Will, and all of the interactions with his buddies, particularly the Great Okan, testing his moral compass here. And the match ends when Great Okan slaps the vice on Matsumoto, and then just like rams his head over and over again into the mat. And Will is like, "What the fuck, man? Cut that out. He's already done. He can't be any more dead than that." The ref calls the match. So that clearly did not make Will happy. And Great Okan was like, lighten up, type of thing. So the challengers to the 6-man titles, of course, we're going to get the warm-up win leading into night 2. El Desperado Místico, Taichi, and Yuya Uemura defeated the TMDK quartet of Ryohei Oiwa, Robbie Eagles, Kosei Fujita, and Harley Jackson. A fine little match that punched within its weight. Again, nothing, you're not stealing the show. Everyone understood their role here, but the work was solid across the board and enough energy to keep things moving. So yeah, fine, good. And in the post-match, they added a little more fire. They, being Desperado and Místico, added a little more fire to the junior tag team title match that they were having against the Ichiban Sweet Boys the next night. Then we had the Knockout Brothers defeat Masatori Yasuda and Tomoaki Hanma. This is a 2 1/4 star match if I ever saw one. Knockout Brothers won via referee stoppage. Two referee stoppage matches. 2 matches that ended with referee stoppage because of a Yuto ice kick to the skull. Master Wato, Toru Yano, and Yo defeated Rizuki Taguchi, Tiger Mask, and Taisei Nakahara. That's another nice 2 1/4 star match. It's kind of dopey and no real stakes. It's just, there was nothing much there. So, matches happening, stuff going down, no spark, no life. I'm looking for things to get me invested, to make me feel something, and everyone is just delivering very, very, very basic stuff. And now let's move on to night 2 and start with the main event and make our way down from there. Callum Newman successfully defended the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Shingo Takagi, and he retains via the make way thing but that was preceded by a low blow via a ref bump or distraction, and Shingo was still kicking out of everything even when they were at the 35-minute mark. Look, this is unquestionably the match of the weekend. It wasn't close. This was excellent. It was an excellent match. Both men came out explosive from the get-go, and unlike much of the undercard, this one never lost the crowd either. And just when you thought it might have, the crowd just showed ways that they were still into it. And Newman's heel personality, man, I'm gonna tell you, cocky, arrogant, to the point where he's flirting with Natsupoi, right? Shingo Takagi's fiance, who's at ringside watching the match in the audience. And then at some point, everything spills into the audience. And he literally goes and flirts with her. And I'm like, he's really finding all the elements to make him like truly detestable, right? He's very, very good. Like the big big time, big man energy is really working for him. You know, we got some great spots here too. Newman planting Shingo through a table, which was fantastic. And then they're back in the ring at some point and they're doing this great explosive sequence of German suplexes, like right in the middle of the ring. That was tremendous. And the counter wrestling, when we got to the final stretch, it was legitimately great. You know, like there's this one spot, right, where Shingo DDTs Newman and Newman lands on his feet, hops right up to springboard into a nos cutter, but Shingo catches him as he's flying. He anti-airs him, catches him with a cutter of his own, and then lands a dangerous driver, all in a really like nice, compact little explosive bit. And we're like easily, this must have been at the around the 30-minute mark. Like these guys are, you know, they're sweating, they're disgusting. It was really fun. And then the finish run, you know, Newman, he fakes a knee injury to set up the second ref bump. You get some faction interference. You know, Zane J comes in, Nagai takes him out. Jake Lee gets in, takes him out. Then Tsuji runs in and takes him out. You know, we get a couple of ref bumps and low blows and whatnot. You know, okay, like it is what it is. But Newman, like in the meantime, he hits Excalibur. He hits a Made in Japan, which he calls the Made in Essex, and the Princess Curse, with Shingo kicking out of all three. And then all of a sudden, you see Ospreay at ringside, and he's cheering him on exactly like he did against Yota Tsuji, right? Ospreay's the only guy at ringside cheering him on. And then they proceed to have a strike battle, Shingo and Callum, and Shingo's just pummeling the hell out of the kid. He's on spaghetti legs. You know, Shingo goes for the fireman's carry. Newman grabs the ref to escape. Shingo drops him and eats a low blow. The Princess Curse follows, but Shingo kicks out again. Then Newman sends Ospreay. Then Newman sort of looks at Ospreay, and he doesn't outright tell him. I was going to say he sends him to the back, but he doesn't quite send him to the back. He says, you know, he points, and I think he says, you know, get out of here, something like that, right? He's to continue to establish that tension there. But Newman lands the kiss the crown. Shingo hits a poison Rana, capture lariat afterwards to cover, but Newman kicks out. Then we get the second ref bump, the low blow, and the make way for the finish, and it's just tremendous. And Will is upset. Will is not proud of him. That doesn't matter. Newman is flipping off Shingo, and it was just tremendous. Like it really, really was a tremendous finale to all of this. Like the match was excellent. Like these guys worked their asses off. This is the most intense work that I've seen Shingo do in New Japan in quite a while. Like Shingo's great, don't get me wrong, but this had an extra. It had an extra bit of oomph, a little extra bit of stank on everything he did, and I'm like, is it because his fiance's in the audience? Yeah, because if so, have Boy sit in the audience for every one of his matches. What do we do if that's all it takes? You know, comp her tickets for every fucking match, every show on every tour. That's what it takes. But this really was excellent. Like these guys worked extremely hard. Like I said, you know, Shingo is tremendous. He's still one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And Cal Newman, man, I thought he was phenomenal here. And his storytelling is just, I don't want to say it's out of this world because, you know, I don't want to oversell things to a guy who's still very young and still, you know, developing into his final form. But hot damn, is he good. He is so good, and he is already so excellent at the small things. Like the whole bit when after taking a beating from Shingo with the strikes and chops and whatnot, and he's, like I said, like he was on spaghetti legs, and then he sort of tumbles over, and it's just outstanding stuff. It really, really was amazing stuff, and he's good. He's good. This championship is bringing out the best in him, and I was not one of the guys who was immediately sold on him. I wasn't either one of those saying, he stinks, he's awful, I never want to see. Yeah, he's a guy who lost me for a while. He's a guy that I completely tuned out, where I was like, no, I don't. He's not doing it for me. I don't see it. I'm not saying that he's terrible. It's like right now, I just don't see it. I don't see the full picture, right? You're seeing it here. You're at the very least, you're seeing the start of an even. You're seeing the start of a portrait that will be finished in a few years, and that's exciting too. But I've got nothing to I got nothing to bitch about here. He was excellent in this match. They both were. This is a 4.25 star match. I think it's the only match this weekend that from these two shows that is worth seeking out. I thought it was tremendous. And then after the match, well, we had a little bit of an angle where the all of the United Empire come out, including Andrade, who was still there, dressed up in his Los Peaky Blinders de Mexico outfit. And then Newman kicks Tsuji in the groin, gives him a low blow, and then he gives him a belt shot as the rest of the United Empire applaud and are very pleased with it. But Will is not pleased, and he tells him, right? And he's very upset. So they hold up Shingo, who was still around, right? Who was still banged up from the match. So the guys from the United Empire lift him up, and Newman tells Will, "You go, you do it on him," because Will was telling Callum Newman, don't do it. What are you doing? He says, no, you go do it. You do it then. Ospreay refuses, and then Newman calls him Death Rider Will. And that hit a nerve. That struck a nerve with Will. It was like, oh, right? Oh, really? You think I'm not one of the boys? Type of thing. And he just railroads Shingo with a hidden blade. And Will is not necessarily pleased with this situation. But then Newman gets on the microphone and sets the terms for a match at Ignition to Dominion match, which is happening in 2 days, with a tag team match of Callum Newman and Jake Lee taking on Tsuji and Takagi. And he laid out the stakes. If Newman and Lee win, neither Shingo nor Tsuji can challenge for the title for the entirety of the time that Newman holds it. But if anyone were to pin the champ during this match, of course they get a shot at Dominion. So they release the prey, and then the United Empire, the entire United Empire, they were all there that night, all draped, a lot of gold in the team. You got the 6-man tags, you got the 2 big belts, you get the heavyweight championship belt, and you have the global heavyweight belt. Everyone's there draped in gold. You get a nice group picture. Will's on the outskirts. He's not into it. He joins the photo reluctantly. He's not happy. We're continuing that story too. And they even continued the angle in the post-show, the post-match press conference where Callum like flat out calls out Will and says, "Are you going to keep causing trouble for me, Death Rider Will?" And Will takes that personally, and he's like, "No, I founded this group. This is my group. These are my guys. I am United Empire through and through. I'm just trying to find a way to, not fall on my neck and, feel my arms go numb all the time," type of thing. It's like, well, maybe some more rehabilitation would be the way to do it. But, wrestlers, that's not a fun, compelling story. And, it ends okay with Will asking Newman, "Are we good?" And Newman going, sort of side-eyeing him and giving him a reluctant hand slap. We wouldn't call it a high five. Wouldn't call it a shake or a fist bump. Just a slap of the hand. So there's still tension there, and that'll be resolved throughout the year. It's a good story that they're building for, that's being built in New Japan right now. And there's a little bit, and just a little flow through with AEW. But I don't think it's AEW has its own thing, but it all connects. Ultimately, Will is in this crisis of identity right now in regards to who he is, what he's supposed to become. And it's also not only reflecting on what he's able to do in the ring, particularly in AEW, but also what he's supposed to be doing with his group, with his friends or his alleged friends. Never open weight 6-man tag team title match also saw a championship change hands where the United Empire trio of Will, Great-O-Khan, and Hanare defeated Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, and Boltin Oleg to become the new 6-man tag team champions. Yeah, this was a genuinely good trios match. I enjoyed it with real heat, some inventive sequences. The match spilled into the crowd early, and Will Ospreay, though, noticeably, didn't want to get into the rough shenanigans on the floor. And then Boltin Oleg, Hanare had a great chop exchange, which was, just physical and great, that what you'd expect out of these two guys. And the counter wrestling between Ospreay and Boltin Oleg in the middle of the match type of thing, I thought that was so good. It was really, really tremendous. Oleg catching Ospreay on the hidden blade attempt and into a pop-up F5. Then Ospreay lands on his feet, goes for the standing moonsault. Oleg gets his knees up. It was all great. Smart, physical, tremendous stuff. The finish was visually impressive too, very logically constructed. Ospreay hits a flying hidden blade from the top rope onto Yoshihashi, who's draped on Great-O-Khan's shoulders. It was good. It was a lot of fun. A nice 3.5 star match. Set up a good warm up for the main event. Great-O-Khan also did the repeated slamming of the head onto the mat while doing the vice. He did it with Yoshihashi. And then after the match, a little bit of an angle there as well. Great-O-Khan and Hanare call out the Knockout Brothers for a shot at the IWGP World Tag Team titles. So there you go. That'll be on the list very, very soon. Next, we had the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match where El Desperado and Místico defeated Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles to become the new champions. I was a little surprised here. I was not expecting Místico to come in and win a title. I mean, look, it's just the junior tag titles. Like, who cares, right? So, at the same time, I'm like, doesn't really matter. But, it's still fun. It's still interesting that they decided to do that. Bring Místico in and get a big win here on a match that, for all intents and purposes, should have been so much better than this. It's a good little match. It's a 3.5 star match, which I enjoyed. I think it's a good match. And the final third really woke things up. You get the avalanche Spanish fly by Místico, a destroyer from Eagles. You get a spear from Despe. You get a Fujita going for back-to-back headbutts on El Desperado. And you're like, ooh, they're just brutal and gross at the same time, And then it finishes with stereo taps, right? Where you've got Místico, who's locked in La Mística, and El Desperado has a numero dos and the lifting version. It was good. I can't tell you it was a bad match. It was good, but there was too much high caliber talent in this match for it to be just a 3.5 star match. Does that make sense? Am I being greedy? I don't think so. El Desperado, Místico, Robbie Eagles, Kosei Fujita. These are all high quality guys, incredible pro wrestlers. Why did this not tear the house down? Were they told not to tear the house down? I find that hard to believe. Maybe they did. Because these four guys should have been while they're putting their match together, it's like, okay, let's do the craziest, awesome shit that we can do together. Let's steal the night. That should have been, that's what this match should have done. There's too much high world-class talent in this match here to be like, 3.5 stars. It was, it's pretty good. This is one of these matches that lacked life, that lacked spark. Everything was good, but it didn't have it wasn't breathing. There was no beating heart to this match. My God, how is this possible? It was fine though. ultimately, I enjoyed it, but it should have been more than this. It really should have been more. Then we have the 8-man tag team match where the Unbound Company, made up of Drilla Maloney, Yota Tsuji, Taiji Ishimori, and Robbie X, defeated Francesco Akira, Jake Lee, Jacob Austin Young. Here we go again. And Zane J. This is another match that had no heartbeat to it. Flashes of good stuff in a short match that never cohered into anything. Primarily a vehicle to establish Maloney versus Jake Lee, I guess. And that's the extent of my thoughts. 3 stars. Taichi and Yuya Uemura defeated the TMDK duo of Ryohei Oiwa and Hartley Jackson. This was fun. I enjoyed this fun little match. The match operated as an unofficial Uemura versus Oiwa match with some Taichi and Jackson sprinkled in there to do their own thing, their sumo off and whatnot, and a proper slugfest as well. But the Uemura Oiwa thing, I think New Japan is really trying to establish a generational rivalry between these two. I kind of feel like they've been trying to establish generational rivalries quite a bit with Uemura, because they've done it with or at least they tried to do it with Yota Tsuji, right? And I think they hinted at it with Shota, even though they were in a team. There's that rivalry there, and now they're doing, well, now we are a rivalry, and they cut a post-match promo saying, the world needs Uemura and Oiwa rivals, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So Uemura is just going to have generational rivalries. That's all. That's all he's going to be about. For some reason, no one can get along with this guy. But I mean, it's a good pairing because they have good chemistry. 2 guys who understand each other, and and they're only, if you keep having them fight each other, they're going to know their patterns and rhythms better and better. So sure. I mean, I'm not against it. It's just funny. That's all. I just want them to have singles matches. I want them to have bigger stakes. This was good pro wrestling in front of a small story, and they're ready for a big story. How about that? 3 1/4 star match. But again, like lifeless. But it did have some spark here. I don't want, no, that's unfair. I think this match, let me pull that back. This match here had a little more life than the others because Oiwa and Uemura were very good. I fucking love Ryohei Oiwa. I think he's tremendous. I think he's so good. I think this is really a guy who's got all the tools. It's crazy. And I've mentioned it. I've mentioned how good he is with the audience, with the fans as well. He's extremely charismatic. He like sometimes he comes across as a Hiroshi Tanahashi who's still in his cocoon. You know what I'm talking about? Before he finally came into his final form. I feel like that's what it is. I feel like, a lot of people overlook Oiwa, but I really wouldn't. Anyway, after the match, they set up a tag team match. After they were talking about them being generational rivals, they set up a tag team match with Taichi actually did that. Me and Uemura versus Zack Sabre Jr. and Oiwa is what he said. So it's like, all right, okie dokie. We'll probably do that right at the Ignition show. 10-man tag team match. Aaron Wolf, Master Wato, Tiger Mask, Toru Yano, and Yo, my favorites. Taking on Don Fale, Ren Narita, Sho, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Yujiro Takahashi, my extra favorites. Aaron Wolf wins with an angle slam. I don't have much to say here. I don't think this was very good. I don't think this was like a 2 1/4 star match. I didn't like this. I don't think it was very good. The Knockout Brothers defeated Shota Umino and Tomoaki Honma. This was not good either. The Knockout Brothers worked a lot of double teams on Honma, and it exposes Honma. Like Honma is he's just stiff. Not that he works stiff. He's like legitimately stiff. He's got no flexibility, nothing. I mean, it's been that for years, but it's just getting worse. And it looks awful. And Umino paired off with Oscar. That was more watchable, But yeah, this wasn't nothing of any meaning was built here. The Knockout Brothers win. It's fine. 2.25 star match. Daiki Nagai and Gedo defeated Ryusuke Taguchi and Tetsuya Matsumoto. Nagai wins with a diving headbutt. I like Nagai. You know, I think he's good. I'm very interested to see what he's going to do in Best of Super Juniors. That's, you know, in fact, he cut a promo after the match talking about how he's going to be in the Best of Super Juniors and he's going to, you know, he's going to do his best and he's going to, the usual Japanese stuff, because he's replacing Doki, who has removed himself from the tournament. Well, when in fact, I think the story is that he's legitimately hurt. So they want to give him time to heal. So they took him out of the tournament, and the guy is going to step in, and that's a huge opportunity for him. He's probably going to lose all of his matches. He's still in the young lion class, so that's fine. But I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. There's a ruggedness about him that I really enjoy. But this match here didn't showcase much. 2.5 stars. Then we had the first match on the card, which was the New Japan World Television title match, where Konosuke Takeshita, successfully retained his title against Chase Owens. Thank God, because I had thought that there was a non-negligible percentage of a chance Chase Owens could win. Takeshita run with his running knee and the raging fire. It takes a special kind of someone for me to rate a Konosuke Takeshita match 2.75 stars. But that's the kind of special someone Chase Owens is. And the House of Torture, there was a lot of interference from the House of Torture here, which dragged down what should have been just a dominant title defense. It became a cluttered mess. It just became a whole bunch of nonsense. Owens sandbagging over the toss that Takeshita wanted to do by throwing him over the rail. Like, he clearly sandbagged him, and I'm like, oh, fuck this guy. Just come on, man. Shota Umino came in to chase off the House of Torture too, and sort of established that they're pals. After the match, the House of Torture all put in the boots to Shota Umino, and then Takeshita covers Umino with his body to take the damage. I'm like, oh, they're friends now. And I believe, like, in the post post match presser, I think he joined, he being Takeshita, I think he joined Hantai, correct? I think he did. I think he joined Hantai. So there you go. You excited about that? But look, I mean, he's baby facing in Japan, and he's going to be baby facing in America sooner than later. So yeah, we'll see that through line work itself out. So I don't know. Like I said, 2.75 match, 2.75 star match. If only because Takeshita was able to keep things together and is very good at what he does. Because you want to talk about watching wrestling that doesn't have any life to it? Watch a Chase Owens match. I still don't understand why this happened. Anyway, the belt was still missing after Chase lost. Takeshita thought he was going to give him his belt back, but he didn't, because the lights went out and we had a little video of the masked man who showed up. Was it at Sakura Genesis? I believe so. The masked man that showed up after Takeshita's successful title defense at Sakura Genesis. Well, it wasn't even successful. He went to time, right? It was a time limit draw. But the masked man shows up. We don't know who he is, but so he shows up at the building and he's carrying the belt. And then the lights, when the lights come back on in the arena, he's standing in the middle of the ring. He attacks Takeshita, belts him across the head, and he reveals himself to be Sanada, who is back in New Japan Pro Wrestling, despite the speculation earlier this year that he was on his way out, which is stuff that I can corroborate. That was indeed the talk of the town, that he was indeed leaving. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he tried looking elsewhere and no one was really interested, or no one could meet his price, or I don't know what the situation is. But But I knew something was up because everyone had stopped talking about him. Like, there was no more backstage scuttlebutt about Sanada leaving. It just all ended. And this despite the fact that everyone was still talking about Evil leaving and about Hiroshi Takahashi leaving. Not Hiroshi. What am I talking about? Hiromu Takahashi. I'm sorry, it's getting late. There was still a lot of talk of, regarding those two leaving, and yet nothing about Sanada. So that piqued me as curious. I was like, oh, that's a little strange. If if no one is making a deal about this guy leaving anymore, there's probably a little fire to that smoke then, and just let it go, because there was nothing to talk about. No one was talking. So I can't say I was necessarily surprised. I think there's some people who were very, very surprised to see him back, because I think everyone sort of came to grips with the fact that Sanada was on his way out. But he's still around. He's gonna be feuding with Takeshita for the title, and he's probably gonna win the title. Let's be honest. Good for him. Good for him. We'll have more details probably on stream later this week. So there you go. So that was the match there, and we had the opener, or the kickoff, I should say, the dark match, which was still broadcast, where Masatori Yasuda defeated Taisei Nakahara by a Boston Crab. It's a good, solid Young Lions match, and Yasuda's pretty good. I'm a big Matsumoto guy. I like the Matsumoto. I like Nagai. These are a couple of dudes that I want to keep my eyes on. It's good. They're good. They're talented. But Yasuda's pretty good, and he got the win here, despite the fact that Nakahara was the hometown boy. That's what commentary kept telling us, and they pulled a WWE on poor Taisei Nakahara. It's like, you're gonna lose in your hometown, bro. You gotta eat your lumps. Welcome to the business. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. As you can tell, overall, I felt this was two nights of very uninspired wrestling. Good, but without spark, without life, without magic. Aside from a couple of outliers, and aside of course for the main event of night 2, Newman versus Takagi, which I highly recommend. I think it was an excellent main event. The rest was it's an entirely skippable show, unless you want to go watch the angles. You want to go see what they're setting up for the future once Best of Super Juniors is done, because that's coming up next. Once that tournament is done, what do we got? We're gonna have this. We're gonna have all these things here. But no, I can't recommend the show. Extremely mid show is Wrestling Dontaku 2026. Those are my thoughts. All right, it is time to review Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom 2026 that happened on April 26, 2026, of course, because it was in the title of the show. Over there in the Yokohama, Japan, in the Yokohama arena. Admittedly, I'm a little late to the party, a little tardy to the party, right? But hey, I brought wine coolers. Can I stick around? Is it okay then? Is it fine? But I still wanted to review it because I did catch up. There's a lot of stuff that I'm still catching up on in regards to pro wrestling, and I did want to see the show because I heard a lot of good things about it. It was a very eventful show, as we'll talk about as we go along. So I did want to get into it. I do want to talk about it. I do want to review it because I thought it's one of the biggest shows of the year for Stardom, and the events, like I said, that happened on it warrant that appellation as well. So I do want to break it down. I watched the entirety of it, so I'm ready to chit chat about it, as was the 8,015 people who were in attendance who were also ready to talk about it afterward. I'm sure they had some lovely conversations about it. 8,015 people in attendance. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is a new... I think this is a new record for Stardom. I believe so because last year, well, their previous largest attendance was for All-Star Grand Queendom 2025, which was in the exact same venue, around the same period last year, and they drew 7,503 people for that show, and that was the new all-time company attendance. And I believe then that this is the one. I think this is the next big record-breaking attendance. I was going to say gate, which could be something else, right? Well, you'd assume the gate is bigger because there were more people, but you never know with pro wrestling. But there were more people here, like easily a good 500 more people. Look, and the continued success, the continued box office success of Stardom is still a story, and it is ongoing, and they are, look, they at some points they're doing better numbers than New Japan is. Look, there's no doubt about it right now in regards to Japanese professional wrestling. Stardom is hot. It's doing extremely good business, and they were already doing extremely good business last year with the particularly with this show, since we're talking year-over-year comparisons, show for show. And like last year's main event, if you recall, for the All-Star Grand Queendom show was Saya Kamitani versus Tom Nakano for in the title versus career match, which was in and about itself like a huge draw. The Tom Nakano retirement stuff worked so well, they did it twice, right? Because she had retired, I believe, earlier, and she had lost a match earlier in February, and then they came back and they're like, no, wait a second, this is doing too much. We're doing too much money here. We got to stretch this out one more time. So they did this match here, which was absolutely phenomenal and a great send-off for Nakano at the same time. And as well on the card, on the upper echelons of the card, you had Starlight Kid versus Izumi, which was awesome, and Shuri versus Mayu Iwatani, the excellent Shuri versus Mayu Iwatani match. I mean, there was it was a stacked card last year, and this year was a card that took a few more risks, if you ask me. I don't think, there's a difference between having your main event be Saya Kamitani, who at that point was establishing her powers of being a singular draw in pro wrestling, and Tom Nakano, her possible retirement or her possible final match, beloved Tom Nakano, staple of Stardom for many, many years. Whereas this year, the main event with Saya versus Sayaka Kurara was a little more of a risk, because Kurara is not a proven commodity. And yet here we are, and maybe we do have to say that Kurara is a proven commodity. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself though, which is not unusual for Warren Hayes, but I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. I do want to break this down nice and properly, and I'll start by giving you some overall thoughts in regards to the show, because the show this year, it's a show I feel that makes you work before it pays you back, as in life, right? The pre-show, it is what it is. The early main card is competent, and the opener delivers. I really enjoyed the main show opener, but for a stretch in the middle, it flatlines a bit. It's lacking luster. It's lacking some life. A solid but kind of inert title match, a gauntlet with decent work but no heat, and a general sense that the show was waiting for to be given the permission to be itself. Then you get Fuwa-chan versus Saorianu, and they just go out there and they blow everything out of the water, and then after that, as of Shuri versus Megan Bayne, everything on the show just became quality. Then it's like, okay, everything is working, everything's really good. There's vibe, there's sentiment, there's feeling, there's hard work, quality work. After that, it's pro wrestling until the final bell. And I think the reason the back half hits as hard as it does has as much to do with what came before heading into Yokohama as what happened inside the building. This show ended up being the conclusion of a multiple pay-per-view arc around Hate's the stable, Hate, its dominance, its stranglehold, if you will, on Stardom. The faction had been positioned as genuine corruption, right? At the core of the company's center, standing tall when they should have been knocked down, winning ugly when they had to, casting a shadow that got heavier and heavier with each major show. And by the time Grand Queendom's All-Star Grand Queendom arrived, the fan base was ready for the good guys to beat the bad guys, essentially, right? Wrapping up months of storytelling wrapping up months of storytelling in a very, very satisfying way. And it paid off. Hate lost every big title match on the card. You got O2 Line, I think that's what they call themselves, Azumi and Miyu Amasaki, right? They took the Goddess titles, and Hanan took the Wonder of Stardom title, despite everything that Hate threw at her. And then a knife put in her back immediately after, but we'll get to that because sometimes the payoff isn't exactly clean and develops into something else. But we'll get to that in a while. And then Sayaka Kurara in shimmering, gleaming white, a beacon in the darkness of Hate, and Saya Kamitani's Dark Phoenix reign to complete the arc. And on top of that, a real star-making moment. But we'll get to that. Like right now. Why don't we start breaking all of this show down? And we're going to do it in reverse order because, like I said, most of the more significant and interesting things happen towards the back end of the show to the very end, whereas the opening stuff is a little more middling. And I think you're mostly here to listen to my thoughts on the big matches, which of course will include Sayaka Kurara winning the World of Stardom title against Saya Kamitani. Look, I thought this was a proper main event with an excellent finish. Kamitani in full villain mode, Kurara as the defiant challenger who simply just couldn't be put away. And like I started to mention, right, you immediately saw it when Kurara did her entrance before the champ, right? We've all seen Kamitani's entrances, right? That's all, it's dark, it's black, there's, punctuations of red and white flashes, it's very bleak and oppressive and evil. Whereas Kurara comes out and she's got this shimmering white gown, and I'm just not just white, like this shit is it's shimmering. She's carrying this huge spear, like this spear of light, something you'd see like in a video game, and she's looking, she looks like the part, like the beacon of hope that is going to come and slay the darkness, restore balance, whatever, the symbolism is already there. And Kamitani gets into it immediately. She uses a chain to choke Kurara over the top turnbuckle while Hate, dispatch the rest of Kurara's faction on the floor. And then they both fight up the ramp as well. Kamitani does a Northern Lights suplex on the ramp. Kurara fights back on and lands a big knee strike on the apron once they're back around the ring, and a flying crossbody to the floor. And Kamitani, she's doing what she can. She's doing everything in her power to keep her down. She does the Frankensteiner running face wash boot in the corner, followed by a Northern Lights suplex. Kurara has this great moment where she spears Kamitani in the back, and then Kamitani gets back up, and then she spears her right in the front. And I got to tell you, she's got a great spear. She must have used the spear 5 or 6 times in this match. And every time I'm like, damn, like, it's really good. She's really landing these great spears. And Kamatani a couple of times in this match is able to land the Star Crusher, but she's banged up. Carrara is taking everything out of her, so she's slow to cover. So that gives Carrara enough time to kick out, like including an avalanche Star Crusher by Kamatani, and at that point, like the crowd is invested in this, and they let out a huge gasp because in everyone's mind, like this one is done, right? This match is that's it. We're finished here. So there's this audible gasp from the audience, which was awesome, right? But Kamatani, like it took a lot out of her, so she couldn't get to Carrara on time to get the win, like the inevitable win. And Carrara kicked out of the pinfall. And then there's interference from the hate group to the point that both factions get involved. You have Momo Watanabe who's in there, and she uses her bat on Carrara, but she accidentally kicks Kamatani as well. And Aya Sakura, who was in the pre-show, she like jumps into the fray and does a big crossbody to take everyone out on the floor, pretty much like guaranteeing that they're out of it for the rest of the match. And then we get a final spear from Carrara. Kamatani has this weak kick out from that. Like at this point, she's running on fumes. She's tried everything. She got desperate and had the team come in to cheat. Nothing is working in this circumstance. And Carrara puts it away with the 450 splash, gets the 3 count, crowd explodes, and Carrara is the new World of Stardom champion. It's the end of Saya Kamatani's reign, almost 500 days, right? And then you have the real visible embodiment of the light versus darkness are coming to an end right there. Yeah, I thought this match was excellent. I thought it was so freaking good. It truly was something special. Aya Sakura at the end, just as a quick note here, clearing hate at the end, and I guess the set pieces were all very good. Like the Avalanche Star Crusher kick out was like one of the best moments of the main event. I swear, like the gasp that the crowd had there, and if you listen to Japanese wrestling, you know exactly what I'm talking about when Japanese crowds deliver that gasp, right? That's always something that you're like, oh, okay, and they're into it, and it's loud, and it really is tremendous, and it really gives off the impression that everyone understands the stakes of this main event. The Momo accidental kick, is it's a well-worn booking device, but it serves its purpose here. It neutralizes the interference without making Kamatani look like she's just been beaten like very, very clean, right? Like it backfired on her at the very least, and it gives some internal friction, maybe in hate, to play with moving forward. We'll see how that goes. Stardom worked really hard over the past year or so to make Carrara a star. And and it paid off in this match. She was getting genuine reactions, great reactions, I should say, from the crowd, standing opposite from Saya Kamatani, who herself, like, people love, even if she is a dastardly heel. People love Saya. They pay money to come see her. So that already there is a very good sign that they've succeeded in doing what they wanted to do with Carrara. And look, I'll be completely transparent with you. Going into this, I felt like this could have been one of these. I felt like the result was going to be one of these, oh, she looked great in defeat. I thought Carrara was losing, but she'd be losing in a way where she wouldn't come across as, second rate, that she could immediately challenge again, and it would be plausible for her to do so. credible challenger shines, Kamitani retains, everybody goes home with something. Yeah, like it would have been a legitimate outcome for a match at this level, but the fact that Carrara went over, to me at the very least, is kind of surprising. But it's also the right call. Like this is why it's surprising, right? She's 2 years into pro wrestling. 3, 2? I think it's 2, right? Like she's still a baby when it comes to pro wrestling. And she just won the World of Stardom Championship in the main event of a big Stardom show of a record-setting attendance show, right? So yeah, like that's a bold move, right? But Stardom has demonstrated repeatedly that betting on your young, fresh talent pays off. That's what they've been doing ever since. Let's be honest. Ever since they got rid of Rossi, this is exactly that's been the plan, and it's been paying off huge for Stardom, right? And this continues to be some clear evidence, right? Carrara looked great. She came across like a champion. Plus, the audience was already warmed up to her as the match was starting. Everyone was into her. So bold move, Taro Okada again, right? Just taking the title off of your proven draw to help create another star who just might have that same potential. That it's too early to tell right now, but the crowd has clearly taken to her. They really, really like her, and she's talented. She's very good. She can absolutely live up to the mantle. I don't think that's in question right now. But it's still a bold move. It paid off in the past. Will it pay off again? Well, we'll see here. And I mean, and it's also very smart to do it in the sense that, in the sense where Kamitani, who, like I said, held the title for almost 500 days, getting the title off of her before people really got genuinely bored or annoyed of her reign, I think that's a very smart move. Nonetheless, like, conventional wisdom would say, look, here's your draw. Keep her at the top, right? But then again, draws do eventually start to wane if you overexpose them. There's a delicate balance there. I think if you were able to get like a 480 some plus day reign, I think that's what it is, right? It's near, we were inching towards 500 at the very least. If you were able to get that out of Kamitani, that establishes her clearly as a draw. And also, in story, in kayfabe, she's a dominant champion. And she's a clear top woman in the company. So you can easily keep her around, keep the specter, I guess, of Saya Kamitani around to continue to feed that world championship scene if needed, of course. Like, it's something you can absolutely go back to, right? But right now, I think the timing is tremendous. They protected Kamitani's legacy, right? And in the meantime, simultaneously launched Carrara's own legacy, which is tremendous. The kid is young. She's super young. She's 2 years in the business, and they saw so much potential in her. They're like, yeah, not only we're going to make you, World of Stardom champion, but you're going to be the one to dethrone Kamitani. So, like, these are two huge statements, and they've got easily a decade plus of her, depending on, multiple factors, right? But, considering she stays healthy and whatnot, they've got a decade plus that they can still turn to this wrestler who will necessarily continue to improve. She will continue to get better on top of that. She's already good. So, it's kind of wild when you look at it that way. Now, I also have a question, a big question as well. Maybe it's the bigger question to ask, is whether or not this choice, as good as it is creatively, I think, will this choice continue to pay off at the box office? Will people continue to come in droves to see Stardom shows? Kamitani, proven draw for the company. Does Carrara carry that weight? Stardom has been on an extraordinary run of box office success, especially notable when you hold it up against the sister promotion, New Japan Pro Wrestling, which it's, to be fair, is itself starting to figure out that leaning into the young talent might actually be a good idea, right? New Japan is learning what Stardom seems to have learned a while back now. If only New Japan could figure out that letting the House of Torture eat some massive L's once in a while might be a good part of the formula. But I'm going off track here. But of course it's too early to say. It's too early to tell if Kurara has that draw power to get people into the building. I mean, Kamitani's not leaving. She's not going away. She's not suddenly. I don't think so. I don't think she's going to be exiting the company anytime soon to go join Marigold or the Pro Wrestling Noah's women's division. He says, chuckling along. She's still on the show. She's still a part of the roster, but she's not the top woman of the company. And we always need to point to who's on top, who's the champion. If you want to start talking about attendance and you want to start talking about who's how business is doing for live gates, well, you usually point to who's at the top. So that's a question that is going to be answered over the next couple of months. It might be unfair to draw comparisons on that level. Maybe Saya Kamitani is just one in a lifetime, or at least once in a decade, every 2 decades, or maybe a lifetime talent where it's just like, people just will pay tons of money to see this person, right? Not unlike John Cena. But we don't know if Kurara has that level of gumption yet. We just don't know. So we'll see how it goes. But I got to tell you, creatively, this is very interesting. The mixing it up at the top like that, because they could have gone with a Starlight Kid. They could have gone back to Micah. They could have decided to belt up Azumi finally, but they decided they went against all of that. Not even Momo Watanabe. They discarded all of those possibilities. They're like, no, we are going to be betting on this 2-year rookie, essentially, to be the face of the company for the foreseeable future. It's bold, but you know what? This is why I try to keep abreast as much as possible with Stardom, because I think Stardom is a legitimately fascinating and interesting promotion in the decisions that they make, in the stuff that they do, even though for a while, especially amongst hardcore Stardom fans, they thought that the hate stuff was getting kind of rote, a little played out. I still thought it was very, very interesting. I thought it was very good, and inevitably the payoff would be extremely satisfying, as it was last night, or not last night during the show, because I watched the show last night. But as I said, I'm late to the party, so it didn't actually air last night. So yeah, the promotion is interesting in a sea of other promotions, and especially in Japan, and I'm thinking specifically about New Japan, who have been stale for years, that have been felt like they've been spinning their wheels and whatnot. At least at this point here, at this moment in time, right here, a company that's been spinning its wheels, not doing really anything interesting creatively or with the talent that they have. Stardom has been the complete opposite. Stardom has been keeping you on your toes. And that kind of freshness, that kind of unpredictability, that goes a long way. So that's why I'm hoping New Japan will continue to fulfill its destiny and try to push some of its new guys that we've been wishing that they would have started pushing 4 years ago. That's why I'm hoping we'll go that way. But Stardom's been already in it. Stardom's been already doing it. So excellent. Look, it's an excellent main event. to cap off the show. 4.25 stars. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal, like a truly excellent match, and you should take the time to watch it. It was tremendous. Hanan wins the Wonder of Stardom Championship by defeating Konami in another L for the hate. This became very good, very good towards the end, right? As it was a patient build, let's put it that way. The first third of the match is essentially Konami, doing arm work, small digit manipulation, and Hanan just getting countered with everything she was trying out, keeping grounded, and the comeback builds properly, right? The crowd chants for Hanan over down the stretch were there, and they were authentic, and the finishing sequence earns the moment. Like, it was really good. A title change that genuinely felt built towards, that felt earned. It was a solid wrestling match. Midway through the match, there's a good back and forth segment between the two where Hanan really holds her own, and then eventually there's a ref bump, and Konami goes for the black spray can, and Hanan ends up countering and using it on Konami herself. And then there's a cover, and Hate pull the referee out of the ring. So there's a lot of that going on, which of course is not my favorite thing in the world. That's the kind of thing that can really throw me off of a match here. And there's a picture frame. I'm not quite sure what the picture frame was. They showed it off. Not quite sure what it is, but Konami uses the picture frame, belts it across Hanan's head, does a German suplex, buzzsaw kick. But Hanan will not die. She's not giving up anytime soon. Hanan lands the heat seeker, does some backdrop suplexes. Konami kicks out of them. The crowd is on their feet. They're, well, not literally, but they're chanting for Hanan. They're excited. And Hanan wins with a high angle German suplex. She gets the big 3 count. She's the new Wonder of Stardom champion. Look, the arc of this match was exactly right. Konami, experienced, methodical, nasty, doing what she's best capable of doing, and Hanan surviving until she got her opening, and the crowd responding over every near fall because the building had been brought on for the journey. And that's what two pro wrestlers should be able to do. Should be able to drag you into a match and get you invested. And this crowd was really into it, And I'm not a big Konami fan. I mean, I've talked about it with every review that we've talked about her. I know there's a lot of Stardom fans who do like her, and that's valid. I think it's just a question of preference. I don't hate her. I don't think she stinks. She does nothing for me. It just doesn't click personally, right? Which meant walking into this, which meant for me wanting this title change to happen, because I've reviewed her over the last few Stardom shows, and I'm like, all right, and every time I'm kind of like, well, it's the Konami match, and let's move on, and that's kind of the vibe I have here right now. I think the title change is very obviously a net positive, right? But even outside of my own personal feelings about Konami, I think Hanan is a much more compelling champion candidate, because in retrospect, the entire build for this match was telegraphed, really, because all it was Hanan just being humiliated over and over again by Konami. So, at some point you're like, no, the babyface is going to get it. The babyface is going to get one over here, right? The heel's got to get some comeuppance, and that's exactly what happened here. But, even though it's an old time structure and, something that, a way to do pro wrestling that is as old as time itself, it still worked. And sometimes you don't need to have all these twists and interferences and weird shit happening to just be like, no, this is actually pretty cool. So the story was always like this, and it's fine, and even if it's It's something we've seen before. It was really, really well done. The match was excellently put together. I thought it was a tremendous match and a testament to the strengths of both of these women, where Konami was just hated and reviled, and people were not into her control segments, but in a good way, not like boo, get out of here type of things. We're like, no, they hated her for what she was doing to Hanan. And then in the meantime, Hanan's comebacks were so much fun. They were so exciting. Look, this is a 3 3/4 star match. I thought it was very good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was tremendous. So we have a little post-match angle here. After the match, the Stars girls all hit the ring, and they're all celebrating with Hanan, and B. Priestley even lifts her up on her shoulders, but then she slams her down, and B. Priestley then gets the upper hand on all of the other Stars, her Stars stablemates. She turned, quite as simple as that. It was a big ol' unexpected heel turn. B. Priestley essentially saying, I never wanted to be your friend or something to that effect, and then says, I'm coming for your title. And then she removes her t-shirt to reveal that underneath, oh goodness, underneath the Stars t-shirt, she had a hate t-shirt. Oh no, she's a part of hate now. Yeah, it's B. Priestley, get into it. I don't know. It is what it is. Azumi and Miyu Amasaki defeated BMI 2000, the team of Natsuko Tora and Ruaka, to become the new Goddesses of Stardom champions. Tag team titles, in case you're like, what the hell are you talking about? O2 line, I think that's what they're called. Azumi and Amasaki, I think. Am I right? Anyway, look, I think that O2 line or 02 line, or maybe there's some other like dopey pronunciation that I'm not aware of. I don't know. Yeah, listen, Hate were doing Hate things from the get-go, from the opening bell. And the match ended up being a satisfying title change that the crowd got behind again. The audience were completely sold on this idea that, Hate were going to come down. And this was the first big blow, right? This was the first big blow to the Hate group losing the tag team titles. And the match was a classic Heat structure where you have the smaller babyface team getting bullied by the larger heels, surviving long enough to get their comebacks in. It's very good. Again, you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel every time. Sometimes the classics work. In fact, most of the time the classics work. You just have to have the people in the ring who are able to make it work, right? I really like the spot where Azumi runs up Ruaka's back to catch Ruaka into a superplex. Ruaka was on the turnbuckles. I thought that was pretty fun. Azumi and Ruaka have an excellent back and forth. In fact, I thought the work here between these two was really good, with Ruaka ending it with a German. Tora lands a crushing senton on Amasaki. I'm like, this poor girl is complete, like she's roadkill now. Like that was a hell of a senton. And they would and BMI 2000 were in control for the better first half of the match, I'd say. But a double team by Azumi and Amasaki got everything back, got things into their first and sustained control segment. And Amasaki avoids eating the mist from Tora, and she lands an X Factor. Everyone lands their shit in. We get stereotype rope splashes by BMI 2000. We get some interference in this one as well. Rina is at ringside and she distracts the referee, which allows Tora to spray Amasaki with mist. The second time it nails. They also use the trash bin, the good old-fashioned Hate trash bin. But the finish comes when Amasaki lands 2 pedigrees on Tora and gets the 3 count. Oh, and Azumi landed a Canadian destroyer at some point. It was a little slow. But nonetheless, you're like, I think it was on Tora. I think it was on Tora, right? I do think it was on Tora. I don't quite remember, but even if it was a little slow and whatnot, you're like, this kind of ruled. Yeah, I mean, this is another very good match here. Very, very good match. Look, I have been a big fan of BMI 2000. I think Natsuko Tora and Ruaka brought something genuinely different to the tag team division and in Stardom overall. Two larger wrestlers, in a promotion that skews towards, smaller wrestlers, speed, agility. They're a clear callback to the atrocious alliance, right? With Dump Matsumoto and Crane Yu. And sometimes all you need to separate yourself from the crowd is just to do something so completely, utterly different from the pack, right? And that's what they do. And it worked. And it not only worked because of their look, but because of their work as well. I think they're very good workers. And they were excellent champions. Dominant, seemingly invincible, a title reign that genuinely established them as big time, like as a true to form threat, which is exactly what a dominant heel reign should be able to accomplish. And they were able to do it fantastically. There's something a little sad, a little melancholy, I guess, at the idea of that reign coming to an end, even if the reign coming to an end was the right call. And, like I mentioned, this was the match that basically set the tone for, everything falling apart for Hate for the rest of the evening as well. Essentially Hate throughout all the three remaining matches, they all came across, all of the Hate wrestlers came across as desperate. They always cheat, and they cheated here, but they just could not get the job done. And that pattern ran through, like I said, the next two following matches, and really started to give some spine to it all, where it's like, oh shit, is everything finally coming apart for Hate? Is Saya finally going to be losing her title? And there you go. And Miyu Amasaki in this match here, she was given the lion's share of the work. She was clearly positioned as the valiant babyface here. She took the mist, she fought through it, she fought through all of the offense she was eating, and then getting the finish, on top of that. Azumi, meanwhile, was keeping either Tora or Ruaka occupied, like on the floor, like holding them back or just tussling or maybe just like getting straight up knocked out, right? Amasaki got the job done, covered in blue mist, and the crowd was into it. The crowd really got that. Two smaller, quicker, more agile competitors finally overcoming the two hulking beasts that seemed untouchable. That's a story that writes itself. And again, a classic one, and it worked. And I really think Amasaki shined here. She was given a lot of room to shine, and I think she lived up to it. Tremendous work on her part. So, with BMI 2000 having done their job, I guess, establishing themselves as credible monsters, the title changing hands opens up the division again. Now it's like variety in matches, fresher challengers. That's all good as well. It's very, very good. Shiri defeated Megan Bayne to retain the IWGP Women's Championship. And look, this rocked so hard. It was so good. Exactly the dynamic you'd want from this match, right? Bayne as the overwhelming force, Shuri as the resilient striker who finds a way type of thing, power versus technique, both executed at a very high level, clean escalation, and a finishing sequence that felt decisive. This match ruled. Bayne is doing all sorts of stuff, like she's throwing Shuri around and whatnot. She's on the floor and she lifts her up into a stalling suplex. And then Bayne starts to walk around the ring while holding on to Shuri in the stalling position, right? In the suplex position. But Shuri wriggles out of it and clocks her. It was tremendous. And this was after, if I'm not mistaken, this was after Bayne just had Shuri in a firewoman's carry. She had her in a fire person's position, and she just launched her from the shoulders to the floor. Of course, there's always people on the floor in Stardom to catch the wrestlers and whatnot. But you get the idea. That was tremendous. And Shuri going after her, doing like picking at her, doing a code breaker, jumping knee, and a flying guillotine at some point, which was also awesome. A rope hung DDT. She does a one-winged angel. Did I see that right? Did I see Shuri do a one-winged angel? Bane kicked out of it, but of course it's not. It's not the OG, right? And we're doing all sorts of great stuff. We've got we got a great sequence of released German suplexes, and a German superplex by Shuri lands directly into a Fujiwara armbar, which was awesome. And Shuri transitions from that Fujiwara armbar into like this wild body stretch submission with her legs, and Bane is just like bent backwards. It was a terrific finisher. Bane taps on that, and Shuri retains. And it was all of this story here was essentially Shuri finding ways to chip away at Megan Bane. Like there's another moment in the match where there's where Bane has Shuri on her shoulders on the top rope, right? Like she's sitting on the top rope, I believe. Her feet are on the second turnbuckle. And she's got Shuri on her shoulders, and Shuri she slides out and over her and lands a sunset bomb from that position, which was absolutely fantastic. And that's what made Shuri's game plan so really good here. It's because Bane essentially set up something which was poised to be, unavoidable, but Shuri just slides out. That's the match in one spot, essentially. You can't overpower someone who keeps finding a way. And the submission finish was perfect, right? Shuri couldn't put Bane down with force, so she took her apart with technique. That was the whole thing. Everything in the match led to that conclusion. And the dynamic here is worth really spelling out very, very clearly, okay? Bane was dominant for the majority of the match. This wasn't Shuri going hold to hold with her. It was Shuri working around her, smarter, picking her spots, getting in the right shots to break Bane down incrementally, and capitalizing on the cracks in Bane's game. That's a specific kind of performance, and Shuri was so fucking good at it. She was excellent, and it was exactly right. And Bane just came across as this beast, the powerhouse. She's so good. But coming back to Shuri for a second, she's always been one of the best, one of the best Joshi. She's always been one of my favorites, and matches like this are exactly why. She didn't just survive Bane; she elevated Bane along with her. She took her up into this awesome story. This is probably the best match of Megan Bane's career. And I'm not saying that in a backhanded way where it's like, oh, Shuri carried her to the match. No, Bane contributed, but Shuri, like the story they were telling and the execution that Shuri brought to it just made it so much better. They could have done, like Megan Bane has had and can continue to have this kind of match with wrestlers from around the world with lesser wrestlers. And that match will not be as good as this. Bane will hold her own. She'll be terrific. But Shuri, the person who should be in Shuri's shoes, wow, that's a tongue twister. The person replacing Shuri in the match will probably not be able to nail it with as much finesse and precision as Shuri did here. It's not as much Shuri carried Megan Bane, but more Shuri brought some really great stuff out of Megan Bane, and vice versa. You can't have that type of game plan if you don't have the appropriate, strong powerhouse that is Megan Bane. And look, I keep hammering on this, and look, to me, Megan Bane still was the most improved wrestler of 2025. And I think she's done it in such a subtle way where everything about her game has just improved. The way she carries herself, the way she presents herself, the way she executes, the way she connects with the audience. Her promos have gotten better. Every facet of being a professional wrestler, Megan Bane has improved in 2025. Now we're in 2026. How's her year? How's the year going, Megan? She's been terrific. She's been terrific so far. And this kind of match here adds to the argument that she is an extremely high level, competitive professional wrestler. what stands out specifically in this match to me, right, is her ability to read and adapt to the Japanese crowd. Now, I know this isn't her first rodeo in Japan, but understanding the subtleties of how to work a US crowd versus a Japanese crowd, adjusting the pacing, the selling, the heat building, the connection with the crowd, that's something that's to her credit. She's been doing the work. She's been understanding, studying, trying stuff out. She understands. Like this is a legitimate quality that she has. I legitimately think that we are underselling how good Megan Bayne has become, how good she is right now, and I don't know what it'll probably take is a singles run in AEW, right? I think that's what it is, because if you even think back of when she returned to AEW, and when I say return, because she had appeared, what was it, like 2022, 2023, something like that, and then she got injured, right? Was it something like that? And she got injured and she completely disappeared. She had one appearance and she disappeared, and now she's back. When she returned and she had her little feud with Toni Storm, it was still a little rough, but I think she was still looking for herself. She was still finding her footing on this national TV stage. Now I think she's got it. I think she's figured it out. I think the sky's the limit right now for Megan Bayne. I think she's terrific. I really, really do. I'm a big fan. And this type of match just continues to prove that. It was tremendous. 4.25 star. Look, if 4.25 star, but if you ask me, like, if you forced me with a gun to my head to pick between my two top matches on the card, which would be these two 4.25 star matches, Sherry Megan Bayne and Saya versus Carrara. If you forced me to pick between the two, I would pick this one. As far as my favorite goes, I'd absolutely pick this one. This is absolutely my speed. I was really, really into it. Terrific match. And look, I know people hate when people do this. It's like, oh, I wish they were in AEW so on. But we were supposed to get a Shuri run in AEW last year, and she got hurt. I would really like to have that Shuri run now, please. I really want to see what Shuri could do with in front of the American in front of an American audience. I would love to see that. Just before this match, we had the Saki Kashima retirement ceremony. Saki Kashima retired from pro wrestling at Grand Queendom, All-Star Grand Queendom 2026. There was no retirement match. People were telling me about her previous match against Momoa's, I think. And it wasn't very good. So, a lot of people were like, well, she's probably not wrestling because her body can't do it anymore, right? Because it just looks awful, right? And they could have done, comedy match or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she didn't want to do that. It's not up to me. But, it was a short but emotional, retirement. There was a video from someone, an official, I'm not quite sure who that person was, from one of the colleagues. It was all in Japanese on top of that, so I couldn't quite understand. And then Tomohiro Ishii from New Japan comes out. He's got flowers. He hands them over, making the trip to Yokohama Arena to pay his respects. And that was pretty much it. But it was a nice little ceremony. And look, this is someone who's always had like these very consistent roles in Stardom, right? Never an ace, never someone you build a company around. You need ditch diggers. As someone pointed out to me, you need the ditch diggers, and Saki Kashima was exactly that. She moved through Stardom's factions. Made every stop count, wrestled in the high speed division. She had an artist of Stardom runs. Every time she was handed something, she ran with it to the maximum. And you know, not everyone gets to do that, and not everyone is capable of doing that. So, you know, it is the retirement of one of a long-standing backbone of the company, someone who's always worked on the periphery, maybe not with the complete total spotlight on them all the time, but someone who was always there and always worked hard. So hope she enjoys her retirement. Then we had a Crash Hardcore tag team match where the Mi Vida Loca team of Rina Yamashita and Suzu Suzuki defeated Hanako and Maika. And I mean, this was a plunder match with just a little hint, with just a little sprinkle of death match. Just a little taste here, but mostly a plunder match. And for me personally, it plays against it because, you know, I've seen all these tropes. I've seen all these things with, you know, people, you know, putting ladders around their neck and swinging them around and being thrown into ladders and thrown into piles of chairs. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's cool and all. And I'm really ready, or at least I was ready to hand wave. I was really ready to hand wave the match and say, you know, 2.5 stars. Who gives a shit? But there's just enough extraordinary things that happened in this match where I'm like, there's so much. There's a couple of really cool things that happened in this match that are so incredibly cool that I'm not justified hand waving this match. There were bumps here which were legitimately insane. And the problem is that the plunder formula is so familiar that the spots have to carry the whole thing. And most of them do. But it stands more as a plunder match, really, with a couple of really cool things happening in between, as opposed to, you know, cohesive stuff happening, right? Like Hanako here in this match was absolutely beast. Like, yeah, she early on in the match, Rina cuts her head with a tin can. Like they started drinking highballs at the start of the match and started hitting each other with the highballs, and then they got one of the cans. Rina got one of the cans, twisted it open, and then with the sharp end of the tin or whatever, the metal, she started cutting her head. And Jesus Christ, Hanako bled. She bled so much, and she has blonde hair, right? By the end of the match, her head was crimson. Her hair, I should say, was crimson red. Like, it was stunning how much this woman bled. And that right there, I'm like, okay, that's already something. And she took such a beating in this match. I was like, she's actually phenomenal. Like, she, you know, I think there is something to Hanako transferring into, you know, deathmatch territory. She was tremendous at it. One of the big spots was a suplex. I think it was Maika suplexing Suzu off of the tippy top of the ladder in the ring to the mat, of course. Like, that was absolutely insane. Hanako power bombs Suzu then later on in the match off the apron through a pair of tables. Like, they had set up the tables, but Suzu only lands through one. She misses the second. It's always fucking scary. And you're like, this rocks. Like, you know, you're watching this and you're like, oh, all this shit really fucking rocks, right? You're seeing these incredible spots. You're seeing Hanako just like fucking covered in blood and it's staining the mat. And this is, she's going so hard in this match. And then like they bring in what I think like a sake barrel or tub. I don't know what you call it exactly. And then they put it over, I think it was Hanako to swing at it with chairs and kendo sticks. You know, like in American wrestling, what they do with the garbage cans, right? They put it over the wrestler and the wrestler can't see, and I'm just kneeling here, not doing anything. But with a big sake tub or you know, or barrel, whatever you call it, and you know, they can't move. Like, it's really dumb. You know, that's the duality of this match. Where it's like, you know, this is all very dumb, but then you have some top-notch, cool spots. You're like, okay, well, I can't hand wave this, like the cool spots and the hard work, and particularly from Hanako here, elevates this match, I'd say, from, let's say, a 2.5 star match, 2 3/4 star match to a 3.5 star match. I ended up really liking it because of the big spots. But otherwise, it's just, you've seen this match before. And most importantly, I've seen Suzu Suzuki and Rina Yamashita have this match with other people on the roster before as well. I've seen this, I think, at every show. So, yeah, it's fine. We can move on. We can move on, or just go really hard on it. It's either or. So, I may have, to be clear, I may be giving it a high rating, but it's not because it was a highly competitive, high rating match. It's just because it was it was kind of bonkers. The visuals and the investment that these women were putting into it, particularly Hanako, that really put it over. But don't expect like a top-notch, high-quality match. That's not what this is. Fuwa-chan defeated Saori Anu here, and boy, thank God for this match, because everything happening previous to this, outside of the opener, I mean, I was like, okay, Christ, can you give me something where I'll get invested in? At this point, I was like, I need something to latch onto. Because I'm about to say very loudly, I am fucking bored with this show. And thankfully, Fuwa-chan once again comes out of left field and delivers a hell of a performance against Saori Anu, who was excellent here as well. What a great setup this was here. And it's exactly what the show needed, right? Anu comes out and she's running circles around Fuwa-chan early. And, she's doing straight jacket submissions and no selling offense. Because the idea here is that, Anu and other women on the roster, they were like, Fuwa-chan, you don't take wrestling seriously enough. It's like, so this was kind of like the old grizzled vet getting into the ring with the cocky little upstart. And Anu was like, all right, you want to hit me? Hit me. And Fuwa-chan starts unloading on her, and she's completely no-selling. And she's snug. Anu worked real snug in this match, too. I was like, okay, all right. I don't hate this. This is a lot of fun, But Fuwa-chan, she claws back and earns every inch of this match. The final stretch was excellent. I thought it was so much fun. And the crowd was really invested. This was a blast. This was a blast of a match. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like on top of that, like I was like, it's about fucking time. There's some life that happens in this match. This was very good. This was very good, and Fuwa-chan is a natural at this. And look, there's context to this story, just to be clear, right? Like heading into the match, like I said, a lot of wrestlers were calling out Fuwa-chan for not taking wrestling seriously enough, And and Anu was taking the position of being the messenger of this, right? Like she had beaten her in a tag match at a Kirkin show, so the story coming in felt like it had personal stakes. Like Anu was like, you've got to prove to us that you've got the dog in you, essentially. And she was so good at this because Saori Anu is like, she's the ice queen, right? She's all fucking business. She comes in, she doesn't smile, she doesn't prance, she doesn't, do little dance routines, she's stately, she's regal, and she's all business type of thing. And she's not paid by the hour either. So she was great to play the antagonist here. And it worked because the crowd were not supportive of Anu in this situation. And the contrast, of course, natural contrast to Fuwa-chan and her energy level, which is much more, much higher and bouncier and whatnot. She's a YouTuber after all. So, the whole idea of you are a celebrity, you're an outsider, do you belong here? And this has been Fuwa-chan's story where it's like, she wants to wrestle, she tries, she's doing her best, she's she's being trained by Hazuki and she can't get a win. She keeps losing and over and over again because she's she's doing her best here. She can't even beat her own trainer, which is normal, I guess you'd say. And Anu was like, yeah, okay, this is the testing ground. This is it, and not, I'm the boss here. You want to move on to the next level? Well, I'm the boss. And the cool thing is that Fuwa-chan, like, she really does have something very genuine about her, something very, very authentic to her presentation. And Anu gave her enormous space to shine in that level, to get that across. And what we got was a very strong babyface performance by Fuwa-chan. And look, Saori Anu, just a couple of months ago, she was main eventing Sumo Hall with Saya Kamitani. Okay, it's like we're not fighting level 1 blobs here. So that's the company you keep when you become a legitimate launch pad. The company here clearly wants to do something with Fuwa-chan. They see something in her. They want to do something with her, regardless where this goes next. This is a notable win for Fuwa-chan, an outsider, a celebrity, right? And, we'll put a pin in this one, where it's like we might be revisiting this once she's challenging for the top title in the land type of thing, So this was very good. Like, I enjoy, like, this is a 4-star match. This was excellent. It was really, really good. And, Fuwa-chan's matches have all been, so far, they have all been a blast. And we're continuing down that road. She even cracked out a moonsault on this one here, to a big reaction from the crowd as well. So, I mean, she's into it, and I'm into it. She's good. Let's keep this ball rolling. At some point, we're going to stop talking about her as, oh, she's just a celebrity, oh, the YouTuber. What? At some point, it's just going to be like, no, she can go. And she's a wrestler. She's Joshi. Let's go. Got a couple of matches here that we're going to run through pretty quickly. I don't have many notes. Rana Yagami retained the Future of Stardom title against Emma Maheshima. Technically solid. It didn't drag, but it didn't grab you either. The kind of match that exists and then it's over. 3 stars. Fine. We had the Gauntlet tag team match. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to. No, but they kept it simple. They blew through what they needed to blow through to get to Hazuki and Koguma winning the Gauntlet. I'm not even sure if there were stakes to this. I'm not quite sure what it was. Other teams that were involved. Well, the Gauntlet opened up with Rian and Waka Tsukiyama being defeated by Mei, Sarah, and Starlight Kid. Then SLK and Sarah got eliminated by Amy Surai and Hina. Hina won with a big splash, and she does a double. Surai does a double shoulder carry into a double standing moonsault. That was pretty cool. The double standing moonsault was the Neo Genesis girls, but anyway, that was a cool spot. Then B Priestley and Saya Ida pinned Hina to defeat the God's Eye girls, and then Hazuki pinned Ida after B Priestley accidentally kneed and kicked her own partner in the face. We know now it probably was not an accident, but at that point we were like, oh, some miscommunication. So there you go. I don't think it was particularly good. The kind of, see, that's the thing is like on one end, they didn't waste too much of our time with it. But then on the other hand, nothing had time to breathe or develop or grow. 2 3/4 stars, I guess, it's fine. Maki Ito defeated Natsupoi, excuse me. Look, I thought this was really good. I thought this was the opener and I thought it was very, very good. I think this is Maki Ito's best match in a long fucking time. And listen, I know there's a lot of people who just gobble up everything that Maki Ito does. Okay, I'm not one of those. I'm even a person who was I was not excited at the prospect of Maki Ito joining Stardom. Maki Ito was fine by me, didn't bother me because she was wrestling in promotions I don't watch. So in that time, you're far away from me. It's fine. Like before this, well, before she started Stardom, I should say, the last match I saw from her was the WrestleCon Mickie James match that they had at in 2025, and that was legitimately one of the worst fucking matches I have ever seen. So, you know, and I'm like, well, this is Maki Ito now. Like, she, you know, doesn't care but look, every time I've seen her in Stardom so far, she's been proving me wrong. I just have to be upfront about it. This match was very good. I think this is the best Maki Ito match I've seen in a long fucking time. I don't think she's done anything in, you know, in her run in GCW or even in TJPW towards the end. I don't think there's anything that's been really interesting, as interesting as this. This was terribly good. Then again, you're in the ring with someone like Natsupoi, who is an excellent pro wrestler. You know, it's kind of like, you know, okay, let's have ourselves a, you know, how could you have a bad match with Natsupoi type of thing? And it's crazy because the Yokohama crowd, 100% behind Maki Ito here. Like, they were feuding over the fact that who was the cutest of Stardom. Spare me that, you know, whatever, it's fine. But, you know, clearly the crowd was behind Ito, and she worked good. She worked hard. This is what I wanted to see from her, you know, to sort of start agreeing with the Maki Ito defenders. It's like she delivered on a major show. If this is the direction that she's going in Stardom, I'm completely cool with it. If they're setting her up to be a challenger for the World of Stardom title, I'm fine with it as well. You know, if this is the level of work she's putting in, I'm okay with this. And Natsupoi, you know, it kind of feels like Natsupoi, she's been losing quite a bit. I kind of wonder if we're not setting up some kind of hiatus, a break. You know, she's got that upcoming, you know, she's got nuptials awaiting for her with Shingo Takagi, unless they're done. I don't know. I don't quite keep up with the personal lives that tightly. Maybe someone in the chat will be like, well, weren't they married like 2 months ago? I don't know. But it kind of feels like, it feels like Natsupoi is slowly entering the role of, okay, you know, I've got to do my part and help raise another crop of stars here. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just me, you know. Anyway, at the very least, worth watching closely. And then we had the pre-show matches. Aya Sakura defeated Kikyo Furusawa. That was fine, you know, 3 stars, good little match, nothing to report. Kiyoka Kotatsu and Matoi Hamabe defeated Akira Kurogane and Ane Kanaya. 2 3/4 stars. I don't know. And then we had, for some reason, a 6-way match where Xena defeated Yuna Mizumori, Momo Kogo, Tomoka Inaba, Lady C, and Tabata, who was on loan from CMLL apparently. Xena wins with a jackknife pin. Xena stinks. I don't think she's very good. 2 1/4 star. There you go. Those are the matches. So that's it. Grand Queendom, All-Star Grand Queendom 2026. You know, it's the punctuation mark, it's the period, it's the closing of the chapter. Look, use whatever literary analogy you want in this circumstance here. It's a show that ends a long-term arc regarding hate, giving back to the audience, having some big babyface wins, and attempts to go into bold directions again. Stardom continues to be extremely interesting, very compelling. You know, and I think this show was a good shot in the arm, even for hardcore Stardom fans who maybe were getting a little tired of everything. I think this is the booking realizing that maybe we've stretched the hate stuff enough and we've got to try some new things, and we're trying out some new things, such as putting Sayaka Kurara at the helm with the World Championship, someone who's 2 years as a pro, you know, 2 years in as a pro. But these are the bold decisions. These are the exciting elements that make Stardom so interesting. So yeah, overall, like again, I thought there's an entire stretch of the show where you can be like, nah, that's fine. But I think everything from I legitimately think everything from Shuri and Bane onward is terrific and absolutely worth your time. And I'll even throw in Fuwa-chan and Saori Anu. Those were a lot of fun. So that's my review of the show. And that about does it for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for listening to the very end here. And look, I didn't ask at the start. I'm going to ask here. Why don't you leave a like on this video if you're watching this on YouTube, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating on Spotify? Those things help out tremendously. Otherwise, listen, I will be back tomorrow with the newest edition of the AEW Dynamite review. That'll be a good time and should be exciting. So be sure to join me for that. And I will also be back for a live stream later on if you're on Thursday as well. If you're around for that, we'll be doing a live stream as well, like we usually do, and then back on Monday for another live stream, and so on and so forth. So there you go. The sun is starting to shine in here and making everything look auspiciously bright, so we're going to cut it right here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.